What's up, everybody? How's it going, everyone? How are you doing? How's it happening? How's it happening? I don't know. We are starting a new stream. It's Friday, honeys. It's time to stream. Yes, it is. And we are covering some interesting topics tonight. It is Good Friday, as the mainstream Christians are doing. And so tonight's topics will be mostly religious themed and mostly highlighting insane religious people, in a sense. So first, we have more crazy evidence that has been released against Jodi, Hildebrandt, and Ruby Franke and their religious justifications for harming children. And then we're going to talk about Trump's Bible. What? And then I think we're going to end with splitting it between talking about Christian nationalism, and we're going to react to a video on Christian nationalism, and we're going to talk about the supposed rapture that's going to come with the eclipse that's happening on April 8th. So get ready, buckle in. But until then, we are going to chillax and relax and play it all cool. Playing some b-ball outside the school, and we're just going to wait for people to get into the chat. So until we get started, just gotta like relax a little bit. All right. Hello, everybody just coming in. We are waiting for people to get into the room. We are live and alive. And there's a crow outside my window asking for peanut butter. Get! I think that's enough music. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was nice. We just could, like, turn it down. Yeah, the crows have some funny ideas about me and my contribution to their nutrition. They're a bit gregarious right now. I don't know about that. Maybe I should sing. Oh no. Good to see everybody. Oh, we have not posted our live stream. Let's see. To Facebook. Interesting how I forgot that. I posted it to Twitter. I guess because maybe I'm slowly migrating to Twitter. Maybe. I wouldn't count on that. I wouldn't believe me fully because I'm experimenting with Twitter, but like Twitter is also like a horrible fucking volatile place. I'm just trying to get out of my comfort zone. So we'll see how long it lasts. It might not last long, but for the time being, I'm being very active on there. It might not last very long though. So don't count on it. Don't take it for granted. Well, the crow... Well, as soon as I acknowledged it, it flew off. They're smart. I think it knows what I'm talking about. I'm just gonna say live now. Live now! Come and join, bitches. Anyways, how is everybody's week? How is everything going? I hope you were all well. I wanted to live stream last Saturday, but it was my birthday, so I decided not to. I decided to be lazy. But anyways, I hope you all had a good Saturday, good weekend, good week. Who do I see in the chat? I see Specs. Good to see you, Specs. Angelica. I see Laura. Thanks for the super chat. Angelica says Twitter is insane. I'm never deleting. I mean, it's... When I asked myself in the universe and to get out of my comfort zone, and I'm like, let me do Twitter, I truly got out of my comfort zone. It's very uncomfortable. I'm very uncomfortable. It does deliver in that sense. Spec says, I got gifted. I thought you said grifted. I've been watching so much shit on people and like their terms of like grifting. Like that's what my brain saw right up front. So anyways, I got gifted a book. That's great. I hope it's a good book. Laura says, I hope you had a great beta. I did. Yeah. Turning 36 is meh. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like the best, you know. It's like, okay, I'm 36, whatever. I still feel young. I don't feel old. Whatever that means. Hey, what's up, Cassie? Cassie is my good friend and a great moderator. What's up, MC? Oh, yeah, nobody really calls it X. I found out that a lot of, like, pretty much all Twitter users still call it Twitter. They don't call it X. Like, they literally don't even give a shit. Hey, Crystal, good to see you. Hello, Roxy. Hello, Altier, good to see you. It's been kind of fun. I don't like. I would have caught myself dead being on Twitter, but it's been fun. It's just like whatever. Like I can leave anytime, right? It's not permanent. I was totally fine without it. It's just like a weird morbid experiment I have where I'm like I'm just gonna like participate on it and see where it goes. Very enlightening. So anyways, if you want to join me on Twitter, you can see my Twitter handle up here, Twitter, and just find me at Jan Daemon. Yes, Laura, when Elon Musk purchased Twitter and took it over, he decided to change it to X. And that's why I avoided it, especially. But then I'm just like, why not just wallow in the mud for a minute? You know, things are far too comfy over here. All right, that's enough music. I don't know what that was all about. So, friends, are we ready to get started? We are going to be looking at some recently released as of late, like literally we started discovering like before I stopped streaming last Friday, I discovered like a new released body cam footage of the Ruby Franke Jodi Hildebrandt situation. And I was really surprised, so I saw that. And then I'm like, okay, so there's more. Okay, so I kind of just want to pick up where we left off last week by looking at some of that. Now, we're not going to watch it all minute for minute, second per second, but I would like to go over that. Laura says, I downloaded Twitter, but I haven't participated. Just wanted to see what was up with it. Like to know your enemies. I mean, yeah, in a way. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to actively encourage any of you to do, because it's so funny. Our community, just like, we don't do we just don't do that. We don't do Twitter. Like, that is just so foreign. So it's like, I'm not going to tell you should, but if you want to step outside of your comfort zone and, yeah, try it. But I'm not going to actively like say you should do it. Absolutely not. Okay, my friends. We have a ton of body cam footage released about the Jodi Hildebrandt Ruby Franke case. Very surprisingly to me last week, there's a ton of this stuff. Okay, now I know, like, they've already been sentenced, right? Like, book closed, they've already been sentenced, like, they're serving their time now. But we never had access to this before, and this is why I'm really interested, because this highlights what they're really thinking deep down inside. Like, their reactions to the very confrontation of their own atrocities. And why I'm so invested in this is because, one, I grew up in Utah. I grew up as a Mormon. Their ideology is based off of Mormonism. And I also was critical of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt connections, like, well before all of this occurred, and I fucking called it. I mean, it's not hard, right? It doesn't take like a genius to figure it out that they would have ended it up to this like extreme. But I called it. I was part of the crew that called it. So last week before we ended the stream, we looked at the body cam footage where they were discovering where the daughter was locked up in some miscellaneous, like, offset bathroom closet. By the way, the house that Jodi Hildebrandt has is a fucking monstrosity of a castle. Like, it is so big and so vast. I can't even fucking, like, okay, even hypothetically, if I had a shit fuck ton of money, I can't see myself buying such a massive house that you don't even spend time in any of the rooms at any point of the day. Like, if you don't spend at least 10 minutes in each room of your house during the day, I don't think you need those rooms. Also released is interrogation footage of when they first pulled Jodi and Ruby into questioning, you know, when they arrested them. Also, there is insight to Ruby Franke's journal that she wrote about her thoughts and feelings during the course of her treatment of her own children. So, interesting. Shall we begin? We're going to start with the initial arresting footage. Now, what I'm looking at now is like the body cam footage of Jodi Hildebrandt, first getting detained. It's like an hour long. I'm not going to sit here and watch the whole fucking hour long thing because there's so much shit we could go over, and we could even spend like the whole fucking live stream on this. I don't plan that, but might happen. I don't know, because I am going to be streaming tomorrow too. I am experimenting with streaming on Saturdays as well. So consider it like a part 2 of today. So it's kind of like whatever you don't finish today, we will continue tomorrow, plus some fun. Because I believe in having fun. So Saturdays are a bit more loose. It's kind of like we finish what we talked about on Friday, if there's something to finish, and then we're going to do something fun. Yes, yay fun. Yes, yay fun. Our community is like, fun? Yes, fun. We get to have fun. We get to do fun. Okay, chat.
Jodi? I need you to step out.
Pause. Oh my fuck. Pause. Jesus Christ, the computer's running so slow. I think my computer's starting to get old. I mean, I love my computer and it served me well, but at this point, I'm like, I think it might be, it's like, it's roughly hitting 5 years old. That is a big house. No, I'm telling you, this isn't just like a big house. This is like Bruce Wayne big. It's like nobody needs this big of a fucking house, big of a house. Mark, what is this thing you call fun? We don't know any of that. We are too highly philosophical, analytical, and we just can't even, like, we can't have fun without analyzing it first, okay? What is fun? What is? All right, lock in. This is after the little boy escaped, went to the neighbors, said, "Can you please help me?" And then the police were called. And then the boy said, "My sister is back at this house." So we now go to the part where the police show up. Yeah, look at that fucking front door. What the fuck is that? Hey, Mark. Mark is another one of our beloved moderators, by the way. The Hildebrandt compound. No joke. They actually had plans to move. This is in southern Utah. They actually had plans to move to Arizona, where it was more isolated, to deal with these children. And luckily, this whole situation was intervened, because I bet you my whole fucking life, everything I believe, everything I own, everything, whatever, that had this not been intervened right now, these kids wouldn't still be around. Because these two had the philosophy of, well, Satan is coming through and the devil is showing and shining and coming through the bodies of these children, and the only way they can be saved is by making them endure pain. So if their methods don't work and they go more extreme methods and those methods don't work, so they use even more extreme methods and those methods don't work, it would be reasonable to conclude that the ultimate way to save the kids would be terminating them, right? It would be almost like how in Mormonism they had the blood atonement, like you could only be saved through death. It's happened before in history. It's not the first time this reasoning comes to this. It's like, well, somebody has the devil shining through them. The only way to save them through that, really to save their soul, is to completely end the body. So luckily, this whole situation was intervened before this, because I bet my fucking left nut that that's where that would have went to. So here we are, after the boy went to the neighbors, and the neighbors called the cops. This is the police going back to the house. And I want you to notice that Jodi Hildebrandt, for some reason, already had her lawyer on the phone. If you're wondering during this video why Jodi Hildebrandt has her phone up to her face the whole time, she had her lawyer on the phone before she even fucking answered the door. So that right there lets me know that she knows that any knock at her door such as that, or the fact that maybe she couldn't find the other child for a minute, she knows what's up, right? She knows. If you have to answer the door with a lawyer already online, I don't know. That just seems weird to me. It doesn't seem like a genuine surprise. Like, it doesn't seem like, oh, I'm so surprised. Gee, officer, what's going on? A child in distress in my home? Wow, that's so crazy. No, none of that. It's like she was completely prepared off the bat. That's what's so odd to me.
Jodi, I need you to step out.
Let me... Oh, there's no, by the way, I always try to have captions on the video and they're not available this time. So I'm sorry for those of you who are like hard of hearing or can't hear. Yeah.
Jodi, I need you to step out.
I have my turn.
That's great. Step out of the house.
No, I'm not gonna step out of the
Step out of
house.
the house.
Step out of the house.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
We're just gonna see.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Is there anybody else home?
Wait a minute, how do you come to my house?
Right there.
Whoa,
Get
nothing.
into
How
my
about them
house.
apples, bitch?
Just have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant?
Have a seat right there.
Do you have a search
Have
warrant?
a seat right there. I'll explain everything after. Have a seat right there.
Do you have a search warrant, sir?
Control 12X11. Can you hold the air? We're searching the house.
I can tell you what's in the house.
Okay. Just have a
I'm
seat
sure
right there
you
for me.
can't.
Do you have a search warrant?
We'll explain it after this.
You can't just come into my house without a search warrant.
We'll explain everything after this, ma'am. Okay. Well, that's one of the reasons why we're here.
So, by the way, if you hear some of the video where it seems like it got muted, there is information that is redacted. Laura says, if any of you wants to add you, where? Oh, Facebook. Okay.
So we'll explain after everything's done, after we clear the house and make sure everything's fine in
But
there.
why are you coming into my house without a
We'll
search
explain
warrant?
it after this.
But that doesn't make sense. You come into my house and do what you want, and then you tell me you don't have a
No,
warrant?
we'll explain why we did.
But don't you have to have a warrant?
Not at this moment, we don't. We're here on
See, the way she's asking, like, if they need a warrant, to me, and also her preemptively having the lawyer, like, on her phone already before she answers the door, I feel like she's already ran this scenario through her head and has like, preemptively, like, planned for this. And just, not only just situationally, but I think she pre-planned this in a sense to keep power over the situation. She's in total panic. Yeah, well, I don't think she expected them to grab her arms and yank her out of her own damn house. So, you know, but something that bothers me, even though she's in a powerless position, which I know she doesn't like because she's such a monster and a demon of power, the way she's staring at the officer, like, I feel like is a way to try to I don't know. And that's reading too much into it, mind you. That actually is me reading too much into it. But I just don't like the way she stares.
exigent circumstances. And I will explain it after this, after my sergeant and the officer are done clearing the house. Is there anybody else in the house?
Yes.
2 kids?
There's a little girl.
Just one?
She's right over here.
Okay. How old is she?
She'll be 10 next week.
Okay.
10.
And she's on this side?
I have Airbnb guests over there. Probably scared me to death.
Okay.
You know, so funny. She just said, I also have Airbnb guests, like, in, like, a side unit. And she's like, they're probably scared to death. It's interesting that she has more concern in this moment of, like, confrontation, in this moment of, like this come to Jesus moment. It's interesting that she expresses in that state of shock, more emotional concern by saying they're probably scared, of her Airbnb guest, but not about the kids. Mark says she saw it coming one day and had rehearsed her options. Yeah, you know it. Why did she have the lawyer on the phone before she even answered the fucking door? Okay? Because I'll tell you what. Somebody that was completely oblivious and truly under a sort of psychological influence that they felt justified in doing what they did to the kids, they would genuinely be surprised, right? If you're in your own la-la land, in your own crazy reality where you feel justified doing that to kids, you would have no clue that you're doing anything wrong. But the fact that she's so prepared for this moment says a lot.
And they're on this side of the house then?
They're right over there. She's over here.
Can you get through the house that way?
Yes, they just have to go right there.
There's no other kids besides her?
No.
What's her name?
The sad thing about this case is it's kind of frivolous to, what do I want? A soda? Or a Coors Light? I'll have the Coors Light. Why not? Mainly because this is so triggering. God, I grew up Mormon, so like this shit pisses me off. Anyways, so what was I saying? Let me back it up. I'll remember if I back it up.
What's her name?
Oh, I was saying, what's sad about the situation of this case is that they tried to redact the information about the children's names, but we already know the names. It's already public, even though it's been erased at this point because of Ruby Franke, and she was a YouTuber. She was, in the beginning of all of this charade, a YouTuber. And she already exploited her kids on YouTube. So we know their names. So it's not exactly secret, but like they do have to redact the names and some information. That's why I say there's a lot of muted parts in this that seems like the sound is broke, but it's not, because they have to mute some information. They have to redact it.
Should be off to, where are you at?
Right here to your left.
Should be off to the left right in there.
The main bedroom?
To the main bedroom?
This is the one officer that's like standing outside
there?
with her as the other officers like look through her house. This is too long. So it's like, I've seen this whole thing. It's like, it's a lot of just standing as she just like is horrified, and they go over with her like, why they're able to enter her house without a warrant. Because when it's an emergency situation, nobody needs a warrant. If they have probable cause for an emergency situation, they don't have to have a warrant to search your home. And their probable cause was that a little boy escaped emaciated with wounds to another neighbor's house and said, I think my sister's still back there, so the police are like, shit, we have to investigate this place. Laura says, if I was in an Airbnb and the cops raided the house, I'd be like, give me a refund as I run out the door. Yeah, I think you would totally be entitled for a refund. So, like, the police went through and, like, searched through the house, and that was nuts. And there was an actual, like, vault with, like a panic room in it. I don't know. It's really weird.
There's a safe, door safe on the other side of it. That's designed to keep someone in, not let someone go out. And so to me, this is almost like a penalty box.
We're taking you inside the vault in Jodi Hildebrandt's basement, raided the same day that Ruby Franke's emaciated children were rescued from months of torture and abuse.
Medical got there, they started cutting the stuff off him, and then you can see like the dark around his ankles, and you could smell it with the flesh.
We're hearing from a former FBI agent who says it's likely the children were held in that vault.
This had full support of life in it, basically, for however long was intended. You know, like I said, running water, bathroom facilities, a bed, a refrigerator. That is for someone who's planning to live there over a prolonged period of time. And that.
I don't want to see the commentary. I want to see... Hold on, let me pull things. Look at Trump for a minute. Let me find the right video. I'm looking for the house search. Or did we see it last week? I don't remember. There's so much fucking footage. There literally is, like, so much fucking footage. Like, really, there's, like, hours of footage. I mean, for fuck's sakes, they're in this weird, like, huge basement, and then you see this safe vault, which that's weird, right? It's got a lock, it's got like all that shit on it. And it's just like, it's so weird. It's like a room, and then it's got like a pull-out bed. It's got a toilet in there. It has plumbing. It has a sink. It has cupboards. It has a refrigerator. So it's like if you were in panic mode or something and you had this room in your basement, like, you could totally hide in there. And if you had enough food storage... Spec says, why can't you say the S word in chat? I don't know what the S word is. By the way, there is no sound to this, if you're wondering. Like, there's no sound. Like, this is the body cam footage. But this room is fucking insane. I mean, I think for introverts, this looks like a dream. Yeah, you got your bed, you got your toilet, you got your sink, you got your fridge. You got storage. Spec says, I said shit-eating grin, it was gone from me. I don't know. You have to realize that sometimes YouTube itself might censor words just because it's, like, automatic. So, like, I literally have nothing to do with it. Which is annoying when people are like, why are you blocking and censoring me? It's like, I didn't do shit. I didn't touch fucking nothing. People do that all the time. They complain about us being moderators and so shit. Like, why did you fucking delete my shit? Why'd you block me? It's like, I'm not. YouTube kind of automatically blocks certain phrases, so I don't know what the fuck you were trying to say. There's also a TV in there. Yo, I'm not gonna lie. Even though this is horrifying that they actually, like, kept kids in this room, like, I'm not gonna lie, that's actually a sweet setup. Yo. No, really, no, seriously? Seriously, like, if you were locked up in that room, like, you would be set. You got your toilet, your fridge, your sink, your bed, you got a television in there. I mean, if you had, like, Wi-Fi and, like, a computer setup, I mean, that would also be awesome. Like, but that is like a crazy fucking room to be like, to lock yourself up in. How do you get out? Like, can it only be open from the outside? That doesn't make sense to me. How do you get out from the outside? Or from the inside, I mean. How do you get out from the inside? See, here's what's creepy. They found a bunch of, like, ropes in there. Yeah, ropes and, like, handcuffs. Like, that's not suspicious. No, this is not to do with Diddy. Although I should have put P. Diddy on my, subjects tonight. You know, I totally forgot about that. I don't know why I didn't do that. Yeah, P. Diddy totally just got, like, raided this week. No, this is Jodi Hildebrandt's place. And the massive amounts of, like, evidence that came out against this. Man, I should have done P. Diddy. That was dumb of me not to include that. I missed that. I mean, I guess I can amend it, but I should have, like, put that, like, right off the bat. Anyway, so the police are, like, going through this room. There's carabiners. There's fucking ropes and shit. So now we're gonna go. So you know how they, like, the police approached Jodi Hildebrandt and she was, like, very talkative and stuff. The way they approach, like, the way it goes with, like, Ruby Franke is, like, much different, which is odd because she's literally, like, the mother. And one thing you have to realize is that Ruby Franke was outside of the house, and she noticed as she drove up that there was a bunch of police around, and she just got out of the car and walked up to them. So at this point,
Yeah, no, go ahead.
she's sitting down in the house.
I don't know where it's at.
Wherever you need to use yours.
Okay. Yeah, there is one there. Thank you, sir. Let me help you. I'm out. That's just really loud. What's that?
It's an alarm. You want to turn it off?
Yeah, where's it at?
It's my face.
those are connected to it. I'll put it back up there. Thank you. Is there a lock on? Or is that lock there? I turned it on. You good? Yeah. Okay. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said something. He was yelling something to him. I apologize.
How are you? All right. Well, it feels good in here. So, hey, Ruby, after this time, I know we have to say that you're already detained, but I'm going to be taking you back to the police department. Okay? So I'm going to be pop up. See if I can fit through here.
You want to put on one of our vehicles?
Yeah, you want? Okay, just place your hand on your back for me. Perfect.
So, I mean, like...
And then, right now, I can...
Like, on the one hand, Jodi Hildebrandt was, like, very talkative, like, whoa, 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 what the fuck, why are you in my house? And then, with Ruby Franke, it's just like, alright, nothing but, like, stoicism, in a sense, without actually knowing about stoicism. She doesn't say anything, which is weird to me, and I've seen other people say this before, so this isn't, like, this isn't a original take, but, like, something I highly agree with. It's, like, it's odd that she is actually the mother, but she is not very vocal about having excuses. It's not like she's very passionate, like, oh, but I was trying to do this or that, or I had to do this or that. It's, like, she's almost too... cold, right? It's coming across off as cold. Really, like, and especially in light of how she acted in her YouTube videos before all of this happened, before she got involved this deep. Like, when we were all calling her out as a YouTube mom, explaining her kids and how she was disciplining them, like, we knew she was coming across as cold. So the fact she's acting like this now is really telling, frankly. I think it's really telling, and obviously I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't, like, diagnose anybody. I'm not, like, a mental health professional. But she does seem like psychotic, like sociopathic. Like, she just has no capacity to understand feeling of other people, or feeling empathy to pain. I mean, with sociopathy, they definitely have certain sets of feelings. Like, they get really irritated, they get really frustrated, they get angry, but they don't really experience much else. Ruby Franke had these tendencies before all of this happened, so I truly think she does have those sociopathic tendencies. I do. We'll see. I have high opinions on this. We'll see.
We'll get you straight back here. Right? And go left hand side. This next one right here. Right here. And we'll go ahead and I can remove those cups right here. Go to down and remove them. This way, yeah. Okay, go ahead and have a seat.
Yeah, sit right there.
Go be here short, okay?
Thanks. Just so he comes out in my office.
What's that?
You can tell I'm in my office.
What'd you say about your office?
Just also down in here when he comes out. If he's
Oh, okay.
He's gonna be there reasonable.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You want to talk about it? She is definitely not a talker.
She's not. Neither is anyone.
Are you gonna ask her a name, or just like, and you ask them about things, she looks at me and goes,
Tell the ones.
what's that?
Tell the ones.
Really?
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm gonna have you come sit on this side for me. Thank you. Was this your order? I'm gonna.
It's yours if you want it. We'll say that.
We also have snacks if you need anything to eat. So I know I introduced myself to you earlier, but my name is Detective Bates, and this is Sergeant Tobler. We're just here to talk to you about kind of a few things involving your kids. So first, do you live down here, or
Wow.
do you live up north? Do you want to talk to me about where you live, or how many kids you have? So we just spoke with your husband, and he said you guys have 6 kids. Are those
I mean, if she did not plead guilty and this case did go to trial, this definitely would have been used against her. Like, it wouldn't seem so good to... What's going on? Oh, it's raining outside. Oh shit, it's coming down. Oh, is it hailing? I think it's... No, that's rain. Okay. Alright, it's raining. It's a rainy day. We got rain. We got rain here, folks. But no, like, if this did go to trial, this would be... You could say this could be used against her. Like, this is a very odd reaction for a mother. Like, an actual mother of the children.
all together? Are those all your kids? I can wait all day, so it's up to you if you want to talk to us about what's going on. Would you feel more comfortable talking to one of us?
Or do you want me to step out if you want?
Or if you feel more comfortable talking to him, I can step out.
I'll wait till I have a lawyer.
Okay. So you don't want to talk to us at all? Do you want to answer that? Or you don't want to talk to us about anything?
I mean, yeah, Mark, you're right. She is, like, technically, she is exercising her Miranda rights, but it's like she's exercising them so exact, it's suspicious. You know what I mean? Like, it's so exact, it's like she's doing it for a very specific benefit of keeping control of the situation rather than truly, like, using it to aid her in a way that's like where she's genuine about, like, how she's treating her children. Like, it doesn't seem like she's lost in the sauce of some psychological or spiritual reason to, like, be doing this to her kids. It seems like it's like, you know, she doesn't have any, it's not like she's aloof and being like, oh, I didn't know this was, like, abuse. It's like she knows, and therefore, you know, it's like she's exercising her rights too well. It's like, yeah, you don't have to say anything without the presence of the lawyer, but you can say something. And the fact that she literally is keeping her lips zipped and just kind of, like, having this really cold stare, that says a lot. Like, if this went to court, I could see a defense lawyer, like, or just, like, another lawyer being like, isn't this weird? And I could see the jury using that against her. I could see a jury being like, this does not seem right. We don't like this.
So yeah, this is just your chance to tell us. We're just trying to get your side of the story. So it's your chance to do that.
I guess that's the short way of saying it. The short way of saying it is if this went to court, I don't see a jury looking at this and getting the impression that she's a concerning mother. this would give them the impression, or at least if I was on the jury, this would give me the impression that she's knows what she's doing, for one, and she's only interested in protecting herself, and there's no interest in the children, and she doesn't even have an excuse as to, or even a fabrication or an unrealistic explanation as to why she felt like it was truly benefiting them. It's almost like she knows deep down that this wasn't for the benefit of the children, and this was just to satisfy her own sadistic needs.
That's up to you. We're just here to talk. And I mean, I'm not asking any criminal questions. If you don't want to talk to us, just let us know and we'll be done.
I've already told you.
You want a lawyer? Okay.
Here.
Okay. Easy enough.
Thank you.
Is there anything else I can get for you in the meantime? I got the water. Do you need a bathroom break?
Odd. So, oh wait, what was Jodi Hildebrandt's? Jodi Hildebrandt. Jodi Hildebrandt was Jodi Hildebrandt. What's it called? Interview? No, interrogation. Hello, where is it?
Come on out, please. We'll go that way. Where's that door? What's that? Downstairs in the interview room. So I could have gone that way, but I appreciate you opening the door. We'll take these stairs right here.
Okay, we already did Ruby Franke. So now let's go on to Jodi Hildebrandt, and I'll slow this down. So it's because I speed up the playback speed to get through it.
So I know I introduced myself when we were out there.
Obviously Ruby Franke didn't really say anything. Jodi Hildebrandt says a lot more, which is also telling. Because here's my opinion on both of these women. I think they're both as equally sociopathic. I really do. I just think they're both they both have the same tactics, but in their own personal way. And I think that their ultimate thing is like having power over the kids. In fact, they have like a complete power complex. They have an obsession with power. They think that the power of Satan is coming through these kids, and they have to fight this power. That's like the whole shrubbery maze of the psychology and like the philosophy behind their actions. So they think that Satan is coming through these children, and the only way to get rid of the evil from these children is to cause the children's bodies pain, and through that pain and discomfort, that will eventually exorcise the demon. So they're kind of in this realm of I really think they're like sadists. Like they love having power over somebody else. They love inflicting pain. And now that they're in the situation where they're caught, and you have the power dynamic shifting, because now they're on the bottom and the law enforcement is on top, right? They have them detained, they have them in rooms, they have them in interrogation and questioning, and then they have them actually arrested and charged, and at this point they're in prison. But I see at this point that, and I'm going to repeat this several times throughout this, that even though these women seemingly accept their position of subservience, it can be in itself a power move or a move to stay on top, to feign being submissive, to make your captors think that you're subservient in order to eventually gain as much power as you can. And they're in this situation now where it's not like a full 30 years in prison. They can get up to 30 years in prison, but they're going to have parole. So I think both of them are manipulative enough to feign subservience and good behavior just to get themselves out of prison sooner than later. That is my personal opinion.
Again, my name is Detective Bates, and this is Sergeant.
Oh, hey Elise, good to see you. Elise is one of our beautiful moderators. We love Elise. Send love to Elise.
Doing all right?
How long you lived here in Islands? 6 years. The same house? Wow. You married? Single?
Where'd you move from?
Yes, I can.
And how long were you up there for?
I'm a little nervous.
You're you know, to be honest with you, if I was sitting over there, I'd be a little nervous too. So don't worry about it. We're just here to talk, to get your side. And right now we're just asking you just typical questions, like how long you lived here, that kind of thing.
I watched too many detective movies.
How yeah?
Which one's your favorite?
Me too. You can't, honestly, I sit there and I'm married and I sit there and watch those with my wife and I say, like, we don't, that's not how we do it.
So right now, and this is good detective work or interrogation work, you never want to let the person you're interrogating, even though you're interrogating them for something really fucking awful, you want to establish a rapport with them. You want to make jokes. You want to lighten up the mood. You want to talk to them about something comfortable because you want them to be open to you. Okay, because if you set somebody down who you suspect of a crime, and you immediately like antagonize them, they're gonna put up a wall and they're not gonna talk to you. So like that's what they do when they crack jokes and they make light and they have fun. So right now they're talking about detective shows and the detectives is like, well, I watch them with my wife and they're not real and blah blah blah. And so like there's that.
That's not right. So there's some good ones out there, don't get me wrong. Most of them are probably a little off base. We're not as mean. I won't get up and beat you up. We don't do that.
We just want to get to know you a little, so if you just kind of want to share a little about yourself and what brought you down here. And
So I trust my attorney. He said, don't say anything. And I said, I have nothing to hide. And he's like, I know that, but just let me be there with you when you talk. So you guys seem nice people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm trying to be difficult. This is really, if you knew all the pieces, I think you'd have a lot of empathy for what's going on.
And
She says, if you knew all of the pieces, I think you would have a lot of empathy for what's going on. And she also says, even though I have nothing to hide, my lawyer says to keep quiet. I don't believe her when she says she has nothing to hide, because of the effort that she and Ruby put into hiding the fact of what they were doing to those kids by isolating them and keeping them from the public. I don't think she believes that she has nothing to hide. I think that's a fucking lie. Mark says, where quote unquote knowing all the pieces includes agreeing with her insane proclamations about the devil being inside the children. And see, that's exactly what I think what she means by, if you knew all the pieces, then you would have empathy for what's going on. What she means by all the pieces is the pieces where she is convinced that there is the devil inside of these kids, and she has to do what she has to do to them. Don't do religion, kids. Stay off religion.
That's what we're looking for, and you're an adult. And the thing about our interview, if we ask you any questions that you don't want to answer, you can just tell us, I don't want to answer that question. But we do want to have a basis and an understanding of what's going on in that home, or what went on up north that brought them into your home. And so if you want to share any of that and you don't want to answer any other questions, that's okay.
I'd like to just tell you, but I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're gonna flip my words. I don't know.
And that's the good thing about cameras. Everything, it's pretty much double recorded, audio, video, and it's for the safety of for you and for us, because we don't want to flip your words. And this will all be pretty much right there to support you. So we're not going to use anything against you.
Be so insistent then. He's an honest, good man, goes to church. I trust him. Why would he say that to me then?
She's asking now, she's wondering why her lawyer would tell her not to say anything. And she's saying, well, he's a good, honest, church-going man. Why would he tell me not to say anything? And where she's going, I can see where she's going here. And this is something that's hard to catch on to if you don't know how Jodi Hildebrandt thinks. But I feel like at least I've looked into this shit enough where I'm kind of like gathering how she thinks. She thinks at this moment that she's being set up and that the law enforcement is against her. And that's why she hid things from the law enforcement, because she believes overall law enforcement is wrong. That she's right, and that law enforcement doesn't understand cosmic religious, hazards of devils and demons occupying children. Elise says, is this a bit of her first questioning by police? Yes. So in her mind, she's concerned that the law enforcement here is lying and framing her and will just paint her as a criminal. At this point, she doesn't think she is. And she has this big hang up about honesty. And she, right now in this moment, I know she thinks that the law enforcement is being dishonest, so...
I don't know your attorney, to be honest.
Well, I'm just saying he's a good, honest man.
Yeah,
and I'm an honest person as well, so we get along great. And he just said, do not say anything.
Maybe just as an attorney, they
always say that.
They always want to be with their client. I'm not sure, but...
I mean, yeah, I feel like she's reading too much into that. It is a move of attorneys to just be like, don't fucking say anything and incriminate yourself. Like, let's figure this out before we fucking proceed. Like, it is part of the process. So there is that. But like, I feel like she is like treating it as a situation of like, oh, the law enforcement will always be dishonest. So I need my lawyer to help me by telling me not to say anything to incriminate myself further. It's like, it's a weird thing. It's like there's the same objective factors, but there's two sides of it, right?
Like I said, at any time, if you don't want to answer a question, you don't have to. So the ball's really in your court on what you do want to answer and what you don't. So...
Well, I think it looks sad that I don't want to answer anything, but it's not because I'm trying to be difficult. I'm really hanging on what he told me to do.
Yeah, who's your attorney?
Adam, his father's an attorney, his brother's an attorney.
Yeah, Elise says, yeah, it tends to make their job easier. The lawyers anyways. I feel like that's really what the lawyer probably maybe has some idea of what's going on, but he's probably like, please shut up and don't make my job harder. That's probably what he really means by that. It's not like, oh, like indicating that the law enforcement is going to try and manipulate you and like connive things out of you and clip you out of context. It's like, no, please don't make my fucking job any harder. Please, lady. Okay, thanks. Shut the fuck up until I get there.
Yeah. It's on the street where the town hall is.
Well,
They
Jodi,
all have the same name.
the whole reason we're sitting here today is there's a lot of questions we have that we just maybe misunderstandings that we just need to clarify.
I know, and I'd love to tell you if you were here, because I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with what I say. You know, I'm a psychologist. I've watched people flip things all the time. So I get it. I sit on your side. I get it. I wish people didn't do that, but they do.
Well, if you're not willing to answer any of the questions about yourself, would you be willing to answer any questions maybe about Ruby or Kevin that you could help us understand? We just honestly want to understand what their dynamic is, what happened to the children, what caused their separation.
Right.
And after talking to Kevin, it sounds like you know a lot about their dynamic and their relationship. So if you could help us understand that at the least, that would be awesome. And that's nothing incriminating towards yourself because it's not pertaining to you. So if you could help us understand that.
Jodi, we're going to do this. You asked for your attorney, and we'll leave it at that. We'd like to maybe talk to you later when you have your attorney here present.
Absolutely.
And we'll
He
go
made
down
an
there, okay?
appointment at 4 on
He made
Friday.
an appointment
Here.
at here at 4.
He talked to the officer
Okay.
and said, "Can we make a time?" And he said out loud, "Do not talk to them."
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll talk and see if we can schedule that, and maybe that's just something we just do with your attorney. Okay. Do you have any questions for us? Or anything we can answer in the meantime?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Appreciate your time. We'll have you hang tight in here.
Odd. You know, there is so much more just like footage released. We're gonna watch this one. Ruby Franke actually kept a journal of her treatment to the kids. And so we're just gonna watch a synopsis of that. It is pretty disturbing, so if you're not in the mood, Jet.
If you thought that the abuse that Ruby Franke's children suffered was bad, I can assure you it's much, much worse than anything that you imagined. Franke documented the abuse and justified it by claiming her children have Satan within them and that demons have visited them. The journal starts in May of 2023 with a note stating that Jodi Hildebrandt received a blessing from a temple president. What that blessing was and what it pertains to is somewhat unclear. In late June, Franke wrote that her son refused to do wall sits. He says he is done. The following day, Franke wrote that the boy is to stay outside, sleep outside, only to come in to use the bathroom and shower. After that, several pages are black. They're redacted, so there are pages and pages of information that we're not seeing. The journal picks up in July as Ruby Franke's journal details the horror that her 12-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter endured over the next 3 months. I won't be using their names as they are the victims of horrific abuse. Franke wrote about her son. Turns 12 tomorrow. I never envisioned him still being 12 and pooping and peeing himself. Satanic choices leads one to become destitute, even in the most affluential homes. Then the next day, on her son's birthday, Franke wrote about her daughter and son being in so much deviant behavior, they won't control their bodily functions. They're both furious. Their selfish, sinful lifestyle is being intervened upon.
So she writes in her journal about her children not being able to control, well, I mean, in a way. So she's talking about her kids that are like 10 and 12 that pee and poo themselves. And she sees that as Satan, you know, coming out of them. Now, when I see that, I think these kids are so stunted and traumatized and emotionally held back that literally the only way they can fucking express themselves and maybe express defiance is by shitting their pants. Yeah, Mark says these kids were age regressive under severe abuse. That's what that sounds like to me. MC says they are in cults, maybe satanic cults. Well, they are actually based in Mormonism, which is why I'm so passionate about the topic. They're very much like based from Mormonism, and Mormonism, the Mormon Church likes to sort of dodge behind the bush on this issue as if they're completely separate from them. But no, they get these ideals from the Mormon Church. But if you think about it, if these two women are so obsessed with the idea that Satan is like in them and they have to beat the devil out of these kids, like that kind of is like a cult to Satan in a way, right? Like your whole cult is based around how you react to and what you do with Satan. Elise says, yes, it's a psychological way to feel like they have some control over their body, common sign of trauma in kids. Yeah, so there's a lot of mention in Ruby Franke's journal of the kids defecating themselves. And she thinks it's a way that they're showing her that the devil's through them.
I told R he emulates a snake. He slithers and sneaks around.
Okay, we gotta back up. So this lady's reading from Ruby's journal, like, altogether. Like, listen to the way she describes her son, referencing her son to being a snake.
Her daughter and son being in so much deviant behavior, they won't control their bodily functions. They're both furious. Their selfish, sinful lifestyle is being intervened upon. I told R he emulates a snake. He slithers and sneaks around looking for opportunities when no one is watching, and then he scurries. If he wants to emulate the savior, then he needs to be 100% obedient. Ruby Franke then said that her son lies all the time. He's a compulsive liar. This entire experience is a shock to my system. She wrote that her son has a cold, dead heart, and he's always been able to get what he wants.
That sounds like projection to me. When you say your son has a cold, dead heart and he gets what he wants, that's exactly how I would describe Ruby Franke. She has a cold, dead heart, and she gets exactly what she wants. In any way, shape, or form she can get it. I think that's total projection.
On July 14th, Franke wrote that her daughter, quote, refuses to work, screams, has her hair shaved off. Franke repeatedly shaved her daughter's hair when she didn't comply with her demands throughout the summer. The girl was only 10. Can you imagine? You shave off your daughter's hair because she refused to work. And we don't know exactly what kind of work she was refusing to do, but we can only imagine given what we have learned about the abuse. This was just the beginning of the summer of hell for these kids. Franke said she told her son that he needed to divulge everything, that he needed to pray and to fast. He's workable and calm for a bit, and then angry and defiant the next. The only consistent thing about R is that he lies. That's what Franke wrote about her son. She followed up by writing that her son told her he would rather have a glass of water than have her as a mom. Ruby Franke
Burn! He would rather have a glass of water than have her as a mom. Yeah, I'm so glad that shocked her to her core enough to write it in her journal. Good for that kid. A+. Yeah, I'd rather have a fucking glass of water than you, bitch. Fuck you. Yeah, props to that kid. The GOAT. The absolute GOAT.
Described July 11th of last year as a big day for evil. She sent her son to stand in the sun with a sun hat, but the boy's demons, she said, wanted to stand in the shade. So Frankie said she got a cactus poker to push the boy into the sun. Later, she poured mop water on him to cool him off. The children were forced to fast, but really it sounded more like they were being starved. They were continually told that they were lying and that they needed to repent for exactly what? No one really knows. If you can engage a weak-minded soul in a physical activity of obedience, you can begin to break the bond of Satan made with the weak.
What? She's literally describing, like, manipulation. She's literally describing brainwashing right there in that sentence. If you can engage a weak-minded soul in a physical activity of obedience, you can begin to break the bond Satan made with the weak soul. Physically stop the acting out behaviors and begin physically doing good. Farm work, lifting boxes, exerting energy. This is dictator shit. This is oh my fuck. This is like straight up white colonizer like mind shit. This is straight up white colonizer like enslaver bullshit here. Like straight up. Like this is what? Like I feel like I'm reading like an early century like book about like early colonizations of like America. Like, what the hell? What the fuck? Oh my god, I got dinner. Dinner.
Activity of obedience, you can begin to break the bond of Satan made with the weak. Ruby Franke wrote that Jodi Hildebrandt volunteered to help her with that. They planned to buy a ranch in Arizona where the children could do more hard work to rid themselves of Satan. At one point, Franke wrote, "The kids need a good kick from a horse and a cactus to run into." There were times when Franke and Hildebrandt placed Franke's daughter in a closet and refused to give her water if she screamed. Quote, "She screamed for another family, water, food, care, love. A manipulative ploy. You are loved."
Screaming for another family, food, water, and love. And Ruby Franke is noting it in her journal as a manipulative ploy.
Water if she screamed. Quote, "She screamed for another family, water, food, care, love. A manipulative ploy. You are loved." That's what Ruby Franke wrote about her 10-year-old daughter. The girl was also made to jump into a cactus. Franke said her daughter was actually cuddling with it, calling it inhuman. In late July, Franke wrote about her daughter, "We put her in the closet to contemplate what to do. She screams much of the day. She doesn't get water if she screams. She refuses to eat." The next day, she wrote, "Jodi wakes from a dream. God lets her know that we have done everything we can to get her attention." They also forced the children to pull weeds from a cemetery for hours at a time and to pick up glass. Franke's 12-year-old son was forced to jump on a mini trampoline for long periods of time and to balance on one foot. On August 27th, toward the end of the children's torturous captivity, Ruby Franke wrote about her son. "Spent the 22nd through the 25th peeing and pooping. He is out of control. He is defiant, abusive, mean, willing to try anything that would grab his attention. I whipped him with a belt yesterday. E2. Franke then said her daughter peed all over Jodi's garage floor, screamed at her and lied to her. She is out of control.
How did you get the ropes on?
Honestly, if I was in the presence of Jodi or Ruby, I would fucking shit on the floor too. Fuck those bitches. Clean my poo up, bitch.
pee too. Frankie then said her daughter peed all over Jodi's garage floor, screamed at her, and lied to her. She is out of control.
How did you get the ropes on you?
3 days later, on August 30th, the children had reached their breaking point. The 12-year-old boy escaped from Hildebrandt's house and went to a neighbor for help. With me to discuss the horrific information in Ruby Franke's journal is somebody who's in.
Well, so yeah. So there you go. Now let's listen to last bit of thing we'll listen to is we're going to listen to the calls that were recorded that they both made through while they were in jail. Listen to Ruby's first.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house.
Does he know his mom's name?
What's your mom's name?
Chronicled her.
All right.
We're now getting a look inside the minds of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt, with never-before-heard jailhouse calls just released, and for the first time, the extended 911 call that led to the women's arrests. On August 30th, 2023, Ruby Franke's then 12-year-old son broke free from duct tape shackles at Jodi Hildebrandt's Ivins, Utah home. He ran to a neighbor for help and asked the man to call 911.
Hi, I was just wondering if you could do 2 favors.
Well, what are they?
Taking me to the nearest police station.
Ruby Franke rose to fame as the star of the 8 Passengers YouTube channel that chronicled her life along with her husband Kevin and their 6 children. At one point, the channel had more than 2 million subscribers, but has been defunct since before her arrest. Since Franke was taken into custody, we've played you pieces of the 911 call reporting her son's abuse, but this is the first time we're hearing it in full.
911, the address of your emergency?
1961 North U1 Drive in Ivins. He says he just left through the porch at the neighbor's house. Her name is Jodi Hildebrandt, and she lives 2 doors up the street. Yeah, out here in Cayenne, the houses are far apart, so he walked just under a block to get to our house. He rang my doorbell and asked me to call the police. But he's very thirsty and...
Need an ambulance?
I don't think he needs...
I just want Ruby Franke's jailhouse calls right now.
And please see the truth. I know it's obscured.
I'm where I see the facts, I see the truth, and
Okay, so this is a jailhouse call, and right now she's talking to her husband.
that's what I'm gathering.
You know my heart.
What are they charging you with?
2 charges of second-degree felony for child abuse.
2 charges of second-degree felony child abuse.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. That's very serious.
It's interesting, I had the prompting over the last month to read Viktor Frankl. I was reading him, and it was like, the worst part was not knowing the end. He said he said he had an inmate that's man search for meaning, and he was a prisoner in World War II, and he said the worst part and the greatest bringing of depression was not the lack of food, and it wasn't the weather conditions, it was not knowing how long it would last. So I think I was prepared for this. I do feel strong. I feel calm. And you know what? Adults have a really hard time understanding that children can be full of evil and what that takes to fight it.
The fuck? Did you hear that? Adults have a hard time understanding that children can be full of evil and what it takes to fight that. Okay, bitch.
You've seen what it takes to fight evil. It's not the person you're fighting. And it can look like something it's not. And you've been there, you know that. And so I don't know any adults who are going to see the truth. So I'm calm about this, and I just pray that you'll hang in there.
You have 1 minute remaining for this call.
I think I can call back, but...
Yeah, but just in case, I'm preparing to step up and fight for the children. They've been taken. And there's going to be a hearing in the next couple of days here in Provo.
I'm sorry, I signaled to Jodi. Will you say that one more time?
Yes, I'm prepared to step up and fight for the children. They've been taken into custody. They're in foster care, and there's going to be a hearing within the next 2 or 3 days.
What about Abby and Julie?
Them too, all 4 were taken.
Where did they go to get Abby and Julie?
I don't know. They while I was with them, they got Abby, and they were looking.
You have exceeded the allowable time for this call. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi.
Okay.
When I saw how long this separation was lasting, I wanted to think of some ways that I could bring in money or make some money if you didn't ever come back. So that's when I asked if you would co-sign on a loan if I found a house, and maybe I could Airbnb it or rent it out, or I've been...
She's almost talking at this point like she's gonna get out. Now, mind you, these jailhouse recordings are well before they got, like, sentenced to prison.
Playing with numbers in my head, and I think I could make something, but I don't want to be dumb. I want to be very conservative. So I pulled the money, and I have it in a bag. And
With you? Do the police have it?
well, I don't know what the police took. I don't know what the police have.
But the bag was at Jodi's house?
They can't just take people's money. I mean, that's not right.
Well, they're not going to take the money.
Lady, I highly doubt you have the fucking, like, center of what's wrong and right now.
When they have a search warrant, they have access to everything in the house.
Sure. Yeah.
I have a feeling we're going to need that money.
We might do.
What happened to all the money from your YouTube?
I haven't been...
What happened?
making
Oh,
big
that's right. You had to delete your
I've
fucking
been
channel.
Very conservative. I think the biggest expense has been the kids' schooling, and that's... they have enough curriculum to get them for a couple years. So...
Okay. I just received a text from Ted Dawson out of the blue. Ted Dawson, who I haven't heard from in years.
What, he just texted you?
Yeah, the story's out. So he said, Stormy sent me an article and it just broke my heart. I just wanted you to know I'm thinking about you, and if I can ever be a resource, we are always here.
Are we in the news?
It sounds like that at least you're in the news. I don't know about me. I don't know what he's talking about. But
I'm wondering if they went to Sherry to like ask her questions.
Go forward a bit.
In the discussions with my attorney, that's the only way.
So, I mean, there is like a lot of long drawn out conversations, but there is this sort of development where originally the calls are of Ruby Franke like really holding down to the core of like nobody understands me. These kids just like they need this. And then you get to like the end of the jailhouse calls where she's totally different. So let's see. Let's talk about her. She's going to be discussing Jodi over here. Like, let's go to.
You have exceeded the allowable time for this call. Goodbye.
Did you see that Jodi pled guilty today?
I did see that. Yes, is that a relief for you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a big relief. It's a big relief. There would have been positive the other way too had she not pled guilty. There's enough evidence that she could have been convicted for life, but that would have been messy. It would have been really messy, and the kids would have. So
do you and her get the same outcome no matter what now, or is there a chance that it would be different?
That's a really good question. That's one that I've asked Lamar. No, we can still have different outcomes. So Ellie asked a little bit about this. I wrote it out in a text to her, but so the next thing that will happen is I will fill out, and she will fill out probation and there's another P, paperwork. And basically you go through your history and you tell them your history, which there's no history on me. There's nothing, no criminal history, no mental health history, nothing. And I'm also hiring a professional to do a mental health evaluation, just to say she's good, like there's no mental health problems at all. And then that will go to my probationary board. Jodi, she can lie on her paperwork, and she probably will. I don't think she's going to give them her history. But I think in the interview it's going to be apparent that she's mentally ill. And so that will affect how long someone...
And I totally called this. The amount of time it took from Ruby Franke to holding dear to her ideas of like, or holding dear to her justifications of what she did to her children. The time it took from her to get there to flipped around to, oh, I see the light. It was all Jodi, and Jodi lied, and Jodi did this. I called it. I called it in the very fucking beginning when these two women got arrested. I'm like, Ruby's best chance is to throw Jodi under the bus and say that she was the mastermind. But it's not going to work, as I've said before. It doesn't work because Ruby Franke already had these tendencies, already had these behaviors, already was doing this insane cold-hearted shit to her kids. Not to the degree, you know, when she met Jodi, I think it was like the perfect storm. And I think it just it was a spark in a powder keg, right? But Ruby Franke already had these kinds of ideas about her kids to begin with. So I honestly, personally, just don't fucking believe Ruby Franke for an instance. I think this is just another way for her to manipulate the situation and have control as best as possible. I think she's thinking that her best bet right now is to play the role of subservience and, revelation, and just like, oh, I see the light, and I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I think she's always this person. Always this person. And frankly, I don't think she should be around children ever again in her entire fucking life. Hey, Lee, thank you so much. Says, I'm so glad you're covering this topic. Yes, thank you. I'm very passionate about this. These crazy fucking white Mormon women.
Because they're looking, how repentant are you? How much responsibility are you taking? How are you aware that what you've done is wrong? And she's not. She's the only reason she pled is because she didn't want to do life. She knew I would testify. The other thing is, on my plea deal, when I come up for probation, the prosecuting attorney can will often, if they think that you're a danger to society, will talk to the probationary board and or write them a letter saying, I think she needs to stay where she is. He's going to stay neutral and not write any letter when my probation comes up, which is a really big deal. But for her, he's not going to stay neutral. So we can come up to probation, and I can.
And see, I disagree with that.
And she may not.
I disagree with that. If the prosecutor is going to stay neutral when her time comes up, her parole comes up, but it's not with Jodi Hildebrandt, I think that should, frankly, I don't think that's right. I think she should be held just as accountable because she had these tendencies well before Jodi Hildebrandt came into the picture.
What does probation look like? Like, what does that all entail?
It can look like several different things, I think. I'm still learning about this, and I think I never realized how complicated it is. I always thought you pled guilty and they'd tell you how long you're in.
Yeah, there's a lot of terminology to know.
Yeah, and half of the stuff that is said goes over my head, and then I have to go, I come back and I ask the girls here, I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Yeah. But probation could look like going home. Like, you could go home. Sometimes, it might look like going home with restrictions, like you can go home, but you need to live with somebody who's responsible and you can't be around certain people. Like, they may say you could go home if your parents agree to house you, but you can't go home to where your kids are living. It could look like something like that.
Yeah, keep her away from kids.
It could look like something where I have an ankle monitor, or it could look like you can go home if you pay a $10,000 fine, or maybe it could look like instead of serving the rest of your time, we'll give you some good time and you can go home in half the time. So I think that getting off on probation, I think looks like there's several different ways that could happen.
Oh, I see. That's good to know.
Yeah.
And is that usually after you've already served some time then?
Say that one more.
By the way, if you don't know who Ruby is talking to right now, she's talking to her sister.
Okay.
That's after you have served some time?
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what that is going to be. I don't know if it's... One of the girls said that it would be for me 6 months, but I've also heard it could be 4 years, and some people serve several years before they ever see their probation board. So I'm really still, I could be in there 4 years, I could be in there 30. Like, I really don't know.
Yeah. And that will come in February?
On February 20th.
Okay.
Yeah. And the news that I saw today, Jodi's sentence hearing is also February 20th. So I'm going to make a request that we be transferred in 2 different vans. I don't think they're going to accommodate that.
Oh, do they? Okay.
Interesting. I wouldn't have thought about that at the point where like both Jodi and Ruby are held in like the same facility. However, it's like there could be times where they come across each other, right? But for the most part, I think they'll be kept separate. At least mainly before the trial. The trial's already happened, and there wasn't a trial. Never mind. Like the sentencing already happened, so it doesn't matter at this point. But like while in jail, possibly could run into each other. Interesting to say.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, when I went to the courthouse last week, what they do, they did this when they transported me to Utah County as well. They pull all the girls. There's only 2 housing here for girls. There's not very many girls here, but there's many for the men. And so they take the girls and they put them in a cell together, in a holding cell to wait, and then they get all the men together and they put all the men in the cells, and then they start putting on the ankle bracelets and the chains and the everything on the men while you're sitting in the cell with these women you're going to the court with for an hour, and you're sitting with them, and then they pull the girls out and they line you up, and then they put the shackles on you, and then they take the men out to the men's van, and then they take the women out to the women's van, and then you drive to the courthouse together, and then they take you out.
How far away is your place from the courthouse there in St. George?
30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then you sit in a cell at the court. So if someone's hearing's at 9, this is what happened to me. There was a girl that went with me, and her hearing was at 9, but mine wasn't until 11. So she went in, and she had like a 5-minute hearing. And then we sat in the cell and talked for 2 hours until it was my turn. And then we rode back together. So you pretty much spend several hours together, whoever is going to the court that day with you.
Interesting. So that means on February 20th, it would be you and her going together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the last time you talked to her? Was it that day?
It was when we were arrested.
Okay.
Yeah. I left early in the morning to go to a dentist appointment with Julie. We left at like 3 in the morning, and she called me sometime in the morning, and so I went back down. But when I got to the house, I mean, it looked like the movies. There was a red fire truck, there was a black van with tinted windows, there were 2 ambulances, there were 20 cop cars. I mean, it was.
Did you just sit in your car?
No, I pulled up and found a spot to park. She lives on a cul-de-sac. I parked in the cul-de-sac, and I walked up, and the driveway was just full of cops, and I just walked up to the cops, and they said, "Are you the mother?" And I nodded my head, and so they took me and put me in the casita, and I sat there for a couple hours. I just sat there, and then they were finishing looking through the house and stuff, I think, and some of the guys were coming in and out with pizza, and so I think Eve was still there because the ambulance car was there, eating pizza.
Yeah, she's talking about like the cops coming in and out with pizza. That was the time they were bringing food to the child. Remember when last week when we watched that body cam footage of like them finding the little girl like up in the bathroom closet, and they were bringing her food because she was fucking hungry. So that's what she's talking about.
Pizza with the police, and then once the kids were taken in the ambulance cars, then the detective came and patted me down and arrested me, and then took me to the courthouse for questioning, which I didn't. And I'm glad I didn't say anything because Lamar was really helpful. Like, if you ever get arrested, don't say anything. I just didn't say anything. And she
How
was like,
did you find Lamar? Was he just assigned to you coincidentally, or did you?
So she has an attorney that she's used for.
She's talking about the
connections.
lawyer she got.
And I called him and no one answered, but then she called him and he said, I only do like business law, I don't do criminal law, but here's a number of 2 people who do that I would highly recommend. And so she gave the 2 numbers and I got the number from Kevin. I don't know how the numbers got from. I don't know how, but Kevin said, here's your attorney and this is her attorney. And that was the last time I talked to Kevin. It was a couple of days after my arrest. But so I didn't see Jodi at all when I went to the house to turn myself in. I didn't see her.
Okay.
And I went, and they took me to the courthouse, and the detective was like, I've got all night, we can talk all night. And I didn't say anything. I just said, I want an attorney. So I could hear Kevin in the hallway talking, and then he left. And when they took me out of the room, they took me outside and cuffed me and said, again, they cuffed me again, and then they told me you're under arrest and then they told me two of the charges, and then they had me get in the patrol car, and that's when I saw Jodi. I saw Jodi was also in the patrol car, and she had surgery on her shoulder. She couldn't put her hands behind her back, so then they pulled her out and changed up the way they arrested her so she could drive with her hands in front of her. And then we had about a 45-minute drive to the jail, and that was the last time I spoke to her. We were in the back, and we didn't say a whole lot.
Yeah, I bet not.
I mean, we talked the whole time, but I don't remember really saying a whole lot. We sang hummed a couple hymns, and she...
You hummed a couple of hymns as you both rode in the back of the cop car to the courthouse to be interrogated about your fucking abuse. What the fuck were you humming? Jesus wants me for a sunbeam. A sunbeam. A sunbeam. Jesus wants me for a sunbeam. What the fuck are you fucking singing?
She was
hey,
so
Mac.
justifying the whole time. She's like,
hey,
don't
Becca.
worry, we'll have our day in court. And then when we were booked in, they put us in separate cells, and we've been in separate cells ever since. So.
Okay. Do you hate talking about that kind of stuff? Does it trigger anything, or is it just?
No, I don't. I think it's. No, I don't mind talking about it.
Okay.
Maybe good for me to talk about it. I don't know if you like talking about it.
I was just wondering if it triggered anything. But if you're doing okay mentally, and then that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I think putting the pieces together and just seeing, like, she knew she was lying the whole time. Like, and it's embarrassing too to like repeat it. It's like, oh my gosh, how gullible was I? Oh my gosh, how much power I gave this person, and I didn't see it. But when I realized, so she had, her attorney's name is Doug Terry, and mine's Lamar, and Lamar, you know, maybe a month into it, maybe not even that long, he's like, Jodi denies everything. She denies having anything to do with this. And I was shocked. I was like, what? And I'm still telling Lamar, like, you know, all of the justifications and all of the, you know, I'm talking like a criminal. I sound like a mad person. He was so patient with me. He would just look at me and, like, kind of dumbfounded, like I said, 2 + 2 is 7, and I really believed it. And he would just stare at me. I'm like, what am I saying that's so off? And but that's because I really believed it. But then when I heard that Jodi was not talking like that, she was denying the whole thing, it told me she knew all along. It's like a little kid who doesn't know it's wrong to pee in their underwear. Like, they don't know.
Funny you mention that. It's so weird that she's talking about Jodi being a liar, and comparing her to a child that doesn't know it's wrong to pee in their underwear, you wouldn't have had... why would you compare that to that? It still to me signifies that you think a kid peeing in their underwear is a sign that they're doing something defiant. And not because of something you're doing wrong. Like, what is her obsession with kids defecating in her pants? And, like, she's been in the reality of her kids doing that she thinks that's a normal thing that happens. It's not. It's abnormal.
They're not embarrassed by it. It's like, oh, I was supposed to be in the toilet? Oh, oops. But you get a 6-year-old... you get a 6-year-old who knows they're supposed to pee in the toilet and they're peeing down the heater vent. They're going to try to hide it. Mm-hmm. And
wait. Something about a 6-year-old peeing down the heater vent? Is that what happened? Pretty sure one of her sons peed down the heater vent, which is kind of funny.
When I realized she knew all along, and she's hiding it. And then I was like, crap, what am I son? And that's when things kind of started turning. I was like, she's not been honest. I didn't know she wasn't honest. I didn't know she would lie. And it's like, what else has she been lying about? Where else have I been deceived?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Oh, no, I was just, agreeing.
Yeah.
You did see it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just like the little string that started pulling apart the fabric. I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like, what? I can talk about it now. Yeah, go ahead.
Lamar was just very, very kind that day that we met with him. It was very kind of just visit with us.
Oh, like miraculous.
Yeah. He and his wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had a way of like he didn't beat around the bush. Like there were sometimes he would say things that were shocking to me. Like he would like repeat what I said, but he would say it in a different tone so I could hear myself. And he's like, "Is that really what you think?" And I'm like, "Oh." And he would. But then there were other times.
You have 1 minute remaining for this call.
Do you want to end the call, or do you want me to call you back? How do you want to?
Okay, that's pretty much it for that. So it's interesting. Jodi is, Ruby is on this like path to redemption. Well, let's listen to Jodi Hildebrandt. And this is why she got herself into fucking trouble. Again, different tone. Is it on this? Just like later?
Okay, here's your info back. The citation for speed, got you going 57 and a 35. I wrote you down for a 50.
No, I don't want the interview. Yeah, I want the Joe calls. But I want Jodi Hildebrandt's Joe call particularly.
That's what I'm gathering.
Well, often if they think that you're a danger to society, we'll talk to the probationary board and or write them a letter saying.
It's a different kind of help, but I'm glad it's finally here.
Me too. I'll take it. Like I hate this, but I'm taking it.
Of course. Yeah. It was good to talk to you.
You have exceeded the allowable time for this call. Goodbye. This is a call from and paid for by...
All right, here we go. Jodi.
An inmate at Purgatory Correctional Facility. This call is...
Now listen to her
recording
ass.
and monitoring. If you don't wish to talk, hang up now. Thank you for using Telmate.
Are you there?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the Lord says, but first they'll lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers.
Hold on. She hits the ground running.
Correctional facility.
Hold
This
on.
call is subject to recording and monitoring. If you don't wish to talk,
Shut up
hang
for a
now.
minute. So Jodi Hildebrandt, when you start her call, she hits the ground running with a scripture quote that talks about being persecuted and sent to prisons for your faith. So just like she hits the ground running, she dives right into it. Just pay attention. I know it might be hard to hear.
Thank you for using Telmate.
Are you there?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the Lord says, but first they'll lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. And it shall turn to you for a testimony. And then he says, settle it therefore in your hearts not to meditate before what you shall answer, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay or resist. And you know what gainsay means?
Wow.
So then he says, and ye shall be betrayed by both parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what's going on. And some of you shall be caused to be put to death, and you shall be hated by all men for my name's sake. And then he goes on to say, you know, and I never read that before, but like I've never been in prison, but I just read that. I just wept. I mean, the Spirit was like, he just said, this is you.
Yeah.
I read in Mark. So that was in Luke, and I read in Mark the same kind of thing, you know, because the Gospels they wrote similarly. So he said, now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son, like the father will betray the son, and the children shall rise up against their parents and shall cause them to be put to death. That statement right there is what's going on with me. The children shall rise up and put their parents to death, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I probably cried for an hour straight. Just everything clicked, and I said, I'm happy to go to prison. Because if you continue to read the rest of the chapter, he's like, be grateful. If you're in this situation, be grateful because you're
grateful.
And you will be saved. And
wow, yeah, that's quite experience to read that from your perspective right now. You know, wow.
Well, I have just been begging him, like,
This is her lawyer on the phone.
I cannot logically figure out what's going on here. And that's it. That's what's going on in the Spirit. I mean, when I feel the Spirit, I have two physiological reactions. I get really like shaky, like I'm shivering, like I'm cold, or I feel heat, like I have a fever run through me.
She's describing that when she feels the Spirit, either she feels shivery, like she's cold, or that she has like heat or fever running through her. So clearly, the way she rationalizes things is based on physical sensation and sort of spiritual sensation. It's definitely not through reason at all. And this is why religion can be very dangerous. And this is why Neogenians talk about the dangers of religious ideas a lot, because if you base your justifications for your actions on feelings and sensations, that deters and changes from person to person. There's no objective feeling or sensation of justification for your actions. And a way to ground yourself and think about, you know, where your place is in life at the moment. Feelings and sensations are not objective. And this is exactly what she's running off of.
Yeah. Wow.
I was like burning up. It felt like I was burning up. And I was just shaking with gratitude. Like, here's your answer. Here's what this is.
That's super cool.
And
That's pretty neat. Pretty neat how that works, how the scriptures can do that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, like I said, I have probably every single day just been, trying to logic, trying to understand, trying to be humble, and trying to say,
Yeah.
What's happening?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're living a puzzle, trying to put the pieces together. Just. Yeah.
Yeah. And in Peter, First Peter, I don't have this one written down. I kind of wrote this stuff down, so I took it down to the phone. But in First Peter, chapter 4, between verses 12 and 19, I can't remember exactly how he says it, but he's like, when you have something happen to you and it just feels like it's random, it's not random. Like this is intentional. It's not just some crazy active events that's going on. This is like intentional. And that First Peter chapter 4 was another one of the footnotes to refer to, that reinforced all this other stuff. I'm like,
wow.
This is just some crazy random event. This has purpose. And then I connected it to my blessing, because my blessing I've been reading like several times a day. And the blessing is pretty clear. The first paragraph of it says, these are words directly to you from your Heavenly Father, and according to your faith and diligence, they'll either be a comfort to you or they won't be. So however much diligence and faith you want to put in them. And then the next paragraph talks about, it says, you are a special spirit, chosen and reserved for these last days and sent forth to the earth in great clouds of glory.
And here we go at the end of the shrubbery maze with her quoting the scriptures talking about being a special spirit on earth. She's got such a sense of grandiosity about her.
To share the gospel,
she's
and
very
the return of the Savior. And it says,
self-ingratiating.
one of the reasons you were sent here is to share the gospel. The strongest message you will ever teach is the power of your example. And then he says, through the power of your example in the spoken word, he says, your tongue will be loosed, and you will be able to teach the gospel in far and distant nations. And then he says, through the power of your example and the spoken word, you will be a great tool in the hand of the Lord in teaching the gospel to many. So the whole paragraph about an example, I'm like, well, what's a better example than to go to prison unjustly and then go teach the gospel? Like, plan on doing it.
Yeah, and that's super cool. That lady that's Jewish that you've met, and what a neat thing.
Yeah.
Be able to share with her. And
begging God, like, please help me understand why I'm in this. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And he gave me some information yesterday, and then today really sealed it with some scriptures that I'd love to share it with you.
Yeah, go ahead. You got it there.
I'm reading the Articles of Faith by Talmage. This is an excellent book. I think everybody should read this book.
She's reading the Articles of Faith now, which is Mormon.
Deep read in some regards.
It is. It hits all the principles, with a lot of clarity. So I've got a woman that's interested in the church, so I've been reading some of this to her as well. So she's a Jew. And
anyways, there's other recordings of Jodi Hildebrandt saying that this is all like, pretty much just keep going into like how pretty much everybody's working against her, things like that and the other. So I really hope that both these women reach the full capacity of their sentencing. I do. It could be anywhere between 4 years to 30 years, but I hope they get more than not. Let's just say that. Anyways, shall we move on? I have to pee. It's been 2 fucking hours. I need to pee. We're going to take a pee break, and then we're going to move on. Okay. All right, my friends, let's move on to Trump. Did you know Trump is selling a Bible? On Truth Social, which is one of those right-wing echo chamber social media sites, says, Happy Holy Week. Happy Holy Week. Let's make America great again. As we lead into Good Friday and Easter, I encourage you to get a copy of the God Bless the USA Bible. So, as you know, recently, with Trump and his court cases, he's broke. He is broke. Plain as day. So, he needs money. He tried to get many loans to deal with his legal issues, and he was denied in many cases. So now he is desperate for money. Laura says, just sounds so tacky, like a Bible salesman in a B movie. Yeah, I know. It reminds me of so many like scenarios where it's like, yeah, buy this Bible for, and why is it always like $60? I don't understand that. All right, let's listen to the Orange Fuhrer.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song "God Bless the USA"?
Oh, God, no. Greenwood, that song, God Bless the USA. Is it that song? I swear to God, it's that song we had to sing in like 5th grade. 'Cause I'm proud to be an American. 'Cause at least I know I'm free. I hate that song so much. I literally I want to kick a puppy off a cliff or like punch a baby in the face every time I hear that song. 'Cause I will stand up next to you and give that thanks today. I don't know. God bless the USA. Cassie, you remember that shit? Cassie and I went to the same grade school together. You remember in like 5th grade? We did like this very specific like American like all the grades got to, not all the grades, but like it was like all 5th graders got together and we did this performance of like patriotic like songs, and that was like the biggest one. And I give thanks to the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I will stand up next to you. God, oh my fuck. I hate that song so much. I literally just, I will launch a kitten off a fucking bridge because that song angers me so fucking much.
In connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our Founding Father documents, yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible, and it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul. Many of you have never read them and don't know the liberties and rights you have as Americans and how you are being threatened to lose those rights. It's happening all the time. It's a very sad thing that's going on in our country, but we're going to get it turned around. Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country.
Oh,
and
God,
I truly
no.
believe that we need to bring them back, and we have to bring them back fast. I think it's...
As much as I want otherwise, I just have a feeling that the next couple of decades in my life are going to be the witness to like the Christian fascist or like Christian nationalist like period of America. I wouldn't be surprised if it doubled down in the next 5 to 10 years. Let's just say that. You know, we're here for round 2 of like Trump versus Biden. If Trump gets elected and there's this whole Christo-fascist shit going on, I'm telling you, we're going to have that phase. You think it's happening now? Wait till it really gets going. Here we go, kids. I mean, I would rather not deal with this. But if I have to, I will die a martyr of Neogenian. I will. I will fucking die a martyr. Like, I will fucking do it. I will do it!
It's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many.
My fuck. Seriously, if I died, like, just make me a martyr for the new world and the Neogenian world. Do it. I don't care. Just make shit up. That's what I want. Make me a martyr, baby.
Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. This Bible is a reminder that the biggest...
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm just like, so... Every time Trump talks, my brain is just like automatically programmed to shut off when he talks. So like, I have to rewind this a little bit to like, to like, I have to go back and actually listen. I have to go back and listen. Hold on. Back it up.
And how you are being threatened to lose those rights. It's happening all the time. God bless the USA Bible.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got to start from the beginning. I think my mind just went blank.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood.
Proud to be an American.
Love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is the King James Version and also includes our founding father documents, yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance.
I'm so glad I'm so glad I'm not elementary school now, because I think, like, even as a kid in 5th grade, when we had to do that stupid patriotic, performance, I already was just like, there's something wrong with this. I don't feel the American spirit. I think this is bullshit. There's something extra to this. But doing that now, but like with Trump, I would have extra been like, okay. Okay. Because honestly, seeing Trump with the Bible now feels no different than how I was fucking like singing those stupid songs in 5th grade. Like, nobody gave a shit. We didn't give a shit. Do you think we gave a shit? No, we hated it. I hated it. Nobody likes singing those songs.
Agents are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible, and it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul.
You have to have it. I want all these people to have this book. You have to have it for your heart and the soul. You can't live without it. Your heart cannot be without it. No, it cannot.
Many of you have never read them and don't know the liberties and rights you have as Americans and how you are being threatened to lose those rights. It's happening all the time.
The Bible is precious. Your life is being threatened. So in order not to feel threatened, buy my Bible.
Very sad thing that's going on in our country, but we're going to get it turned around. Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country, and I truly believe that we need to bring them back, and we have to bring them back fast. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country. All Americans...
No, the last thing we need is religion. The last thing we need is religion.
Need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. This Bible is a reminder that the biggest thing we have to bring back America and to make America great again is our religion. Religion is so important. It's so missing, but it's going to come back, and it's going to come back strong, just like our country is going to come back strong. In the end, we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. Christians are under siege. We must protect content that is pro-God. We love God, and we have to protect anything that...
Trump doesn't give a shit about religion. Trump just sees that it's a tool for him to use to gain control. Doesn't give a shit about religion at all. He's a dictator.
Is pro-God. We must defend God in the public square and not allow the media or the left-wing groups to silence, censor, or discriminate against us. We have to bring Christianity back into our lives and back into what will be again a great nation. Our founding fathers did a tremendous thing when they built America on Judeo.
Ew.
Christian.
Wait, hold on. I'm trying to go back here. Why is his ear so greasy? Why the fuck is his ear looking like a fucking, like, moist vagina? Like, what the fuck? Yes, an ear is technically an orifice, but I feel like this is an orifice I shouldn't be seeing. Like, it looks like a fucking, like, butthole. Like, it looks like the inside of a colon. Like, what the hell is happening here with this greasy ass nasty ear?
Built America
Disgusting.
on Judeo-Christian values. Now that foundation is under attack, perhaps as never before. What can we do? Stand up, speak out, and pray that God will bless America again.
God bless the USA.
I'm proud to endorse and encourage you to get this Bible. We must make America pray again. Pray, get educated, get motivated, and stand with me and the legions of Americans asking God to bless our great nation, to bring our great nation back, and to make America great again. I'm proud to partner with Lee in this offering. He's a very special man, both as a talent, but maybe even more so as a human being. He's very, very special. And I think you all should...
Oh, Lord. God bless you. Literally, this entire fucking, like, 3-minute ad for this book is just, like, taking the lyrics of that song and, like, riffing off of it. And Cassie's like, stop it. You have to suffer with me. I'm sorry. We're here.
Get a copy of God Bless the USA Bible now and help spread our Christian values with others. There you have it.
'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. All right, in stock now. Order now. God bless the USA Bible. Easy to read, large print, and slim design. This Bible invites you to explore God's Word anywhere, anytime, like you don't have it on a fucking app on your phone. This Bible has been designed so that it delivers an easy reading experience in the trusted King James Version translation. This large print Bible will be perfect to take to church, a Bible study, work, travel, and etc. The Bible also features a copy of Handwritten Chorus to God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood. God bless. He's literally another Jesus Christ. He's the second coming of Jesus Christ. I'll tell you what. This Bible also features a copy of the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance. Yo, this is Christian nationalism book. This is It's happening. It's happening. This is it, folks. When you have a Bible, including a handwritten chorus to God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood, the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance, welcome home, folks, to the Christo Nation. Make America pray again. We're here. This is it. Congratulations. We are all Neogenians in a Christo-fascist world. Congratulations. Isn't this fun? Isn't this fun? Isn't this just exciting?
Introducing the limited edition God Bless the USA Bible, inspired by Lee Greenwood's hit song and the most recognized patriotic anthem in America, God Bless the USA.
Oh my fuck.
The God Bless the USA large print leather-bound.
No, I feel like if I keep playing that, my whole video is going to get like demonetized. And I'd be really ever so pissed. I'd be ever so pissed if that was because of Lee Greenwood. If Lee Greenwood single-handedly got my fucking stream demonetized tonight, I will rage. And I will stand up next to you and defend her till this day.
I'm proud to be partnering with my very good friend Lee Greenwood. Who doesn't love his song, God Bless the USA, in connection with promoting the God Bless the USA Bible. This Bible is...
Lee says, what about the national anthem? No! Lee Greenwood will now forever be the national anthem. You don't get it. You don't understand Christian nationalism, okay? You don't. There's no national anthem. The national anthem is Lee Greenwood, God Bless the USA. That is the national anthem. Okay? There's no more national... We are living in a Christian, like a Christian nationalist nation now. Okay? We're there. We're already there. It's not about to happen. It's not going to happen. It's now. It's now.
King James Version, and also includes our founding father documents. Yes, the Constitution, which I'm fighting for every single day, very hard, to keep Americans protected. Also, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, and the Pledge of Allegiance are all part of this God Bless the USA Bible. And it's just very important and very important to me. I want to have a lot of people have it. You have to have it for your heart, for your soul. Many of you have never read them and don't know the liberties and rights you have as Americans and how you are being threatened.
Oh, I'm proud to be a Neogenian, or at least I know I can think.
To lose those rights. It's happening all the time. It's a very sad thing that's going on in our country, but we're going to get it turned around.
It's Ken Harbaugh with Against All Enemies on the Midas Touch Network. There's a famous saying, often attributed to Sinclair Lewis. When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. We are seeing this play out in real time. What's crazy is that millions of Americans are going to fall for it. They fell for it when former President Trump embraced the flag in spite of his obvious disdain for our military and our veterans. I have often remarked on this show that Donald Trump's superpower is a complete absence of shame. It has made him extraordinarily effective at manipulating his most ardent followers. And right now, with court judgments looming and a desperate need for cash, Donald Trump desperately needs those followers. Or put more accurately, he desperately needs their money. So he is selling Bibles ahead of Easter, the holiest day on the Christian calendar.
I mean,
Make
that's
no mistake,
smart.
this is about making money and sowing division. Because Donald Trump's grip on power depends on his followers being fearful. Here he is, pitting Americans against each other, returning to that tired campaign theme of Christianity.
He did, Elise. Elise is like assaulting that Poland flag. He totally essayed the Poland flag. Hey, Becca, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Your siege.
Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country. And I truly believe that we need to bring them back, and we have to bring them back fast. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. This Bible is a reminder that the biggest thing we have to bring back America and to make America great again is our religion. Religion is so important. It's so missing, but it's going to come back, and it's going to come back strong. Just
Man, all the fucking, like, obese Walmart groveling pieces of shit are going to be eating this up so fucking much.
it's like our country is going to come back strong. In the end, we do not answer to bureaucrats in Washington. We answer to God in heaven. Christians are under siege. We must protect content that is pro-God. We love God, and we have to protect anything that is pro-God. We must defend God in the public square and not allow the media or the left-wing groups to silence, censor, or discriminate against us. We have to bring Christianity back into our lives and back into what will be again a great nation. Our founding fathers did a tremendous thing when they built America on Judeo-Christian values. Now that foundation is under attack, perhaps as never before.
As well as it should be, bitch, and here we come. The new fucking paradigm.
In case you were wondering, this is the only Bible endorsed by Donald Trump himself. That very act of lending his personal endorsement to the Bible tells me he has no idea what's actually in it. Chapter 11 of 2 Corinthians, or as Donald Trump refers to it, 2 Corinthians, says, "For such men are false apostles, deceitful workmen, disguising themselves as apostles of Christ." And no wonder, for even Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. So it is no surprise his servants also disguise themselves as servants of righteousness. Their end will correspond to their deeds. In the end, this is all about Donald Trump. He says it out loud, right here, that Americans must stand with him.
What can we do? Stand up, speak out, and pray that God will bless America again. I'm proud to endorse and encourage you to get this Bible. We must make America pray again. Pray, get educated, get motivated, and stand with me and the legions of Americans asking God to bless our great nation, to bring our great nation back.
You know, I always feel so reserved, like, because I would love it if people would identify with being Neogenian. I would totally love that, but I'm never going to, like, go out there and be protolize, whatever you say it, like, you know, it's like I'm not all about recruiting people. I don't want to do that. I don't give a shit. I think it feels shitty. But like when it comes to like this shit, this sort of Christian fascist, Christian nationalism shit, I kind of do just want to be like, join the cause, bitch. Join Neogenian. Like, we are totally against this shit. We're fighting against it. Fuck this shit. Let's go. Grab your torch. Grab your pitchforks. We're storming the castle. Proselytizing. Proselytize. Yes, proselytizing. Thank you. I'm so happy you knew exactly what word I meant. Proselytize.
And to make America great again.
It's easy and natural to feel outraged by this, and we should. But having a sense of humor goes a long way, not just in maintaining our own sense of balance and sanity, but in delivering an effective response. Sometimes you have to match outrage with mockery. The one thing Donald Trump cannot tolerate is
matching outrage with mockery. I like this idea. It's not a bad idea.
Is being laughed at. He knows that when enough people start pointing, calling out his ridiculousness, the entire crowd will see that the emperor has no clothes. That's not to say we shouldn't take him seriously. Donald Trump's fascist ambitions are deadly serious. But here on the Midas Touch Network, we're not going to be consumed by anger, especially when we have...
I don't know what the Midas Touch Network is. I have no idea who this guy is. I'm just listening to his criticisms on Trump
like
right now.
To work with. Here's the promo video from the official web.
Speaking of Christian nationalism, which I think is appropriate to talk about today on Good Friday. Oops, I totally misspelled Christian. Oh well. I noticed... Did we fucking watch this 4 months ago? I don't know if we did or not. I don't think we did. Did we? I think we did. I honestly don't fucking remember.
This episode and others like it are brought to you by the generous support of my patrons on Patreon. If you'd like to help support this channel, join our growing Discord server, and get early access to every video, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/secondthought.
Hold on, let me get this fixed. Okay.
Alright, let's go. I'm here in the heart of Dallas, literally right in the center of the city. Dealey Plaza and the JFK Memorial are right over there. Got the Dallas Symphony Orchestra playing over there. And right over there is the Perot Museum. But right here is First Baptist Dallas. In the summertime, the church holds an event they call Freedom Sunday, a patriotic service blending piety and politics. Imagine a cross between Easter and the 4th of July, where congregants are decked out in red, white, and blue, wave American flags, cheer at indoor fireworks, and worship to the Battle Hymn of the Republic just as they would with any traditional hymn. In 2020, the annual service climaxed with Pastor Robert Jeffress preaching to the congregation a sermon titled America is a Christian Nation, in which he spoke out against the idea that the Founding Fathers intended the country to be a secular nation without religious influence, with church and state totally separate.
That version of American history belongs in the same category as the story of George Washington and the cherry tree. It is an absolute myth. The truth is, America was founded primarily, not exclusively, but primarily by Orthodox Christians. And they founded this country upon the unchanging foundation of God's eternal truth. And furthermore, our founders believed that our success as a nation depended upon our faithfulness to God's eternal word. Though it is completely politically incorrect to say, the truth is this: America was founded as a Christian nation, and our success as a nation depends upon our fidelity to God's word.
Jeffress's rhetoric is not unique. Services and sermons like this have been held all over the country. It's just one piece that fits into a larger narrative of evangelicalism, revisionist history, conspiracy theories, xenophobia, and grassroots politics that's found its way into the spotlight over the last decade. This unholy marriage of religion and politics is the narrative of American Christian nationalism. That's no doubt a phrase you've seen and heard a lot of. It's an ideology that believes that the US was always intended to be a Christian nation, that it's backslidden into horrid liberal secularism, and that it desperately needs to be reclaimed by Christians and rededicated as a nation for God. And these aren't fringe beliefs either. According to the Pew Research Center, 60% of Americans believe that the founders intended the country to be a Christian nation. 45% believe that it should be one today. And of that 45%, more than half believe that the Bible should influence US law and take precedence over the will of the people. Christian nationalism is the framework that animates these ideas. It's been diagnosed as one of the key components in Donald Trump's victory in 2016.
I mean, I'm not actually... I know I kind of embellish the language a lot when I say Christian nationalism is here now, but I really do mean it. Like, it is here now. Like, it's now. Like, it's happening. Like, this is the reality that we live in the US of A. I mean, as much as we'd like to take the statistics apart and argue otherwise, Christian nationalism is here right now.
It's been cited as one of the ingredients that led to January 6th. It's no doubt going to play a big role in the 2024 election. We've got prominent Republicans self-identifying as Christian nationalist. Lauren Boebert is literally calling for the dissolution of the separation between church and state.
That is not how our founding fathers intended it. And I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk. It's not in the Constitution. It was in a stinking letter, and it means nothing like what they say it does.
And all of this is why some are calling the movement the single biggest threat to religious freedom in the country.
And as someone who isn't religious, but who is interested in religion nonetheless, watching all this play out has been not just troubling, but curious.
Yeah, I heard
and part
that.
of the reason for that is that there's a war being waged amongst American evangelicals, a group that most people see as pretty unified. But before we get to that, what exactly is Christian nationalism? Is it just regular old conservative Christians gone nuts? Is it the tiny church at the end of your street? Well, not really. It's complicated.
One of the most helpful resources we consulted in understanding what Christian nationalists believe, why they believe it, and what's really going on underneath it all from a historical perspective is this book, Taking America Back for God, by sociologists Andrew Whitehead and Samuel Perry. Now, this book was published before January 6th and before the 2020 election, but even though the events referenced in the book may not be completely up to date, the conclusions that the authors draw are more relevant than ever. To study the movement, the pair drew data largely from the 2017 Baylor Religion Study conducted by Gallup. Respondents were asked to rate their level of agreement with 6 individual statements to gauge their orientation towards Christian nationalist ideas. And from those answers, they divided people into 4 separate categories across the spectrum: those who reject Christian nationalism outright, those who resist it, who accommodate it, and who act as an ambassador for it. Now, what they found is pretty interesting. Clearly, people are all over the place on this. It's not at all binary. There are people who are fully in support of these ideas, just as there are those who are strongly opposed to it in every respect. But most people are somewhere in the middle, agreeing with a couple points over here, but disagreeing with a couple others over there.
See, that's
just
concerning
as interesting
to me.
and vital in understanding the movement is looking at the demographics of the respondents, because the people who make
The people on the fence are the ones that concern me.
up these 4 categories are perhaps not entirely who you'd think they'd be. There's a perception that Christian nationalism is just a bunch of white conservative evangelicals, but that's not entirely true. In some ways, Christian nationalists do lean in the directions that you'd probably expect. Those who land in the accommodator and ambassador categories do skew older, white, Republican, they live in the Bible Belt or the Midwest, and they're less likely to be college educated. But to try to claim that's the whole picture is inaccurate. Whitehead and Perry stress this constantly throughout the book. Quote, Christian nationalism and white evangelicalism are not at all synonymous. For example, almost a third of those in the reject column, people who do not agree with the movement at all, identify as Protestant or Catholic. In fact, nearly a quarter of evangelicals overall land in the reject or resist categories. Accommodators and ambassadors skew female, while resistors and rejectors skew male. It's not exclusively white. 65% of Black Americans are either accommodators or ambassadors. It's not even exclusively Republican. Republicans are the majority, of course, but a full 1/3 of respondents who identify as Democrats wound up landing as an accommodator or an ambassador. All this to say, there's way more nuance to the makeup of those in this movement. Yes, there's overlap with conservatism, and there's overlap with evangelicalism, but Christian nationalism is not either of those things in totality. To understand it, you have to look at it as its own individual cultural framework. Within that, I think there are 3 core ideas to understand in order to grasp what Christian nationalism...
I mean, that's how I would think about it. It's not necessarily like, I mean, yeah, the majority of Republican representation of that is so, but Democrats don't have clean hands. And that kind of what frustrates, and I say this a lot, what frustrates me about Democrats is like they're virtue signalers, and they make a lot of promises and they don't fucking keep them.
Really is. The first is the truth that Robert Jeffress and loads of others have promoted, that America was founded as an explicitly Christian nation, that the Founding Fathers always meant it to be so, and that founding documents like the Constitution are basically just as divinely inspired as the Bible itself. Debating the accuracy of that is less what I'm interested in here. What I am interested in is what emerges from it. What stems from this worldview is the elevation of American into just as important an identity as Christian, and these 2 things become so tied up with one another, so intertwined, that they're inseparable. To be an American is to be a Christian, and to be a Christian is to be an American. I'm sure you've heard the phrase American exceptionalism before. Well, Christian nationalism just adds this whole other dimension to that. Now, America isn't just the greatest country on earth, no, it's the new Israel, where God will establish his kingdom. America is the city set upon a hill that Jesus proclaims in the Sermon on the Mount. In fact, multiple presidents have explicitly labeled the country as such. Americans are God's chosen people, and if you disagree, well, you're just a secular liberal out to squash religious freedom. It's a worldview that clearly doesn't have a lot of nuance to it. It's a very black and white, binary mode of thinking, one that views the world in terms of purity and corruption. America and American values are pure because they're defined by Christian values, and the rest of the world is corrupt and inferior. Quoting Whitehead and Perry, to embrace the cultural values of other nations is inherently polluting, making our society just like the societies from which refugees flee. What emerges from all this is exclusion and protectionism, us and them, superior and inferior. We'll come back to this later, but doesn't that kind of seem like it sort of clashes with the whole Jesus being the savior of the world thing? Or, gee, I don't know, the verse in Philippians that says Christian citizenship is in heaven, not earth. Or how about this verse from the book of Acts that says God shows no partiality but accepts people from all nations? You know, there's a refrigerator magnet-style phrase you may have heard of before that gets tossed around in evangelical circles. Jesus plus nothing equals everything.
What?
Christian nationalism is like a warped version of that. It's Jesus plus America equals everything. But where did this come from? How did this become a thing? Historians are agreed on this. America was not founded as an explicitly Christian country.
Yeah.
And the founders were pretty in favor of the whole separation of church and state thing. So how did these ideas become so prominent? Well, there's not really an easy answer, or one particular person or event that started all this. When you start looking into the origins, you find evidence all over the place. I mean, literally, you can go back over 500 years. In 1493, Pope Alexander VI issued a papal bull, basically a public decree from the Pope himself, that gave Spain the divine right to discover and conquer non-Christian lands. This is what's called the Doctrine of Discovery, a handful of lines on a sheet of paper that gave Columbus and others like him the sovereign right to assume ownership over lands in the New World. Native Americans? Well, they're more like occupants, not owners. Therefore, the land was free to be both conquered and converted. So all those years ago, we can already see the melding of these ideas. This was like Christ's instruction to go out into all the lands and spread the good news, but with the added benefit of getting to claim those lands at the same time. Good news for the settlers, not so.
I used to work for a museum that had an exhibit on like Spanish like missions in California. And it was meant to be like putting the Spanish up on a pedestal and showing how much good they did for the native people. And let's just say I didn't take it that way. I walked into the exhibit and I'm like, oh look, an exhibit on oppression. Like it was an exhibit to like help like restore the historical buildings of the missions, but I'm just like, you're totally motioning to like restore oppression, like the Spanish over Native Americans. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Much for the locals. So, hundreds of years ago, we can already see a glimmer of Christian nationalist ideas, and there have been numerous variations of this ever since, this notion that the US is God's kingdom on earth. But what's more pertinent is looking at the times and circumstances in American history when it really gains ground. Jump forward to the 20th century and the years following World War II, and we can see this happening pretty explicitly. This is the second core idea. Christian nationalism is rooted in cultural insecurity. So, it's the late 40s, early 50s. What's going on? The Red Scare.
Are you now, or have you ever been?
Oh, the Red Scare. The reason why, like, most Americans won't even, like, take a look at, like, socialism because they're like, it's because it's, like, deep-rooted from, like, the Red Scare.
Of the Communist Party.
Communism is this gigantic existential threat to humanity, to the United States, and to Christianity. Plus, you have the regulations and reforms of FDR's New Deal, thought of by industrialists as socialism creeping its way into the country. And in response to the combination of these things, you have all these nationalistic ideas promoting faith, freedom, and American Christian identity rise up. You have the Christian Nationalist Party and the John Birch Society, both formed for the express purpose of combating communist forces who are dead set on destroying religion. You have efforts, albeit unsuccessful, to amend the Constitution to include Jesus' name and declare the United States a Christian nation. In God We Trust is adopted as the official motto of the country. Under God is added to the Pledge of Allegiance. So much of this isn't Christian in theology or even practice, but rather is a weaponizing of religion as a means of pushing back against perceived threats. As Whitehead and Perry put it, Christian nationalism becomes more salient during times of societal unrest. Economic, political, or cultural upheavals cause Americans to fall back on their core identities, traditions, values, and narratives about themselves to bring order out of chaos. In some cases, as with American Christian nationalism, myths, traditions, and identities that were not originally part of the nation's core can be manufactured for the purpose of establishing order. Since the mid-20th century, such manufactured ideas have presented in ways both large and small. For instance, I'm sure you've heard about the moral majority in the 1980s. We've talked about that on the channel before. But there are smaller ways that these ideas spread. One in particular that's interesting is the homeschool movement, which really picked up steam in the 1970s. It's here that you sometimes find curricula built on pseudo-historical ideas of the country's supposed Christian identity. There's a discredited historian named David Barton whose work here is pretty key in propagating these ideas.
We do have a godly heritage in America, but we've been robbed. We have to get involved and take it back. A godly heritage is the foundation of America, and the church must take right ground.
By the time you get to the 21st century, and the 2010s in particular, it's not too difficult to see the kinds of economic, political, and societal insecurities that have given birth to this most recent strain of the Christian nationalist virus. The financial crash, millions of people losing their homes, their jobs, their livelihoods, the birth of the gig economy, precarious work, labor rights and job benefits being stripped away, wages stagnating. All these things and more contribute to the growth of movements as varied as the Tea Party movement, Christian nationalism, or Occupy Wall Street. They're all animated by a growing discontent that's been simmering for years. Some of these movements, like Occupy, have at least something resembling a sensible class analysis. Others, like Christian nationalism, not so much, instead latching onto the most exclusionary and reactionary interpretations of a religious tradition. To them, the US is backsliding into apocalyptic Sodom and Gomorrah territory, and God requires the faithful to wage war for his glory. Again, it's all very binary, black and white, good guys versus bad guys kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
You ever watch the show Lost? Just kind of reminds me of that.
No, I've never watched Lost.
Good guys. We are the good guys. In my experience, the people who go out of their way to tell you that the good guys are the bad guys.
So, American Christians are rendered heroes, but absent a class analysis, the villains in this framework wind up ultimately looking a lot less like DC or Wall Street elites and more like immigrants and members of the LGBT community. That's because the response to cultural insecurity is to insulate. The movement's goals of restoring stability and taking America back are just as much, if not more so, about ejecting a perceived outsider as they are about instituting Christian principles at a governmental level. So, historically, who comes along and taps right into that?
Build that wall, build that wall, build that wall, build that wall, build that wall.
Now, in none of this am I trying to bash Christians or religious people of any flavor. Although I'm not personally religious, I'm not anti-religion by any means. Religion can be a wonderful thing in a person's life. And weirdly, that's kind of the point that I'm leading to in all of this. Because,
you know, I used to say I was anti-religious, and I guess in a way, I still am. I think the reason why I am more reserved in saying that now is because I do see that there are people that consider themselves religious that have very progressive ideas and ways about practicing their religion, and they're very encompassing of the right for humanity to evolve and self-actualize. So, you know, I hesitate to say anti-religious anymore. I think, like, I am not religious at all. But I see that some people that consider themselves religious can be very progressive, be very open-minded, and be very kind, empathetic, and not open to hindering anybody else's right to self-actualization.
as the data has shown, this is all actually less of a religious movement and more of a political and cultural one. The God of Christian nationalism isn't so much the Abrahamic God. The God is America.
Back in November of 2000.
Wow, you know, it's so crazy. I never actually thought about that in that light. The God of Christian nationalism isn't the Abrahamic God. It's literally America as its own entity. Wow, I never thought about that, about like the concept of America being its own like godly entity. We're fucked. We're fucked.
In 2015, I ate dinner with one of President Trump's biggest supporters. This person explained to me that America is the last hope of Christianity. That America is the last hope of Christianity. And I thought that I simply misheard. That it could not have been what he was saying. This person was well known as a Christian leader and apologist for the faith. It simply could not have been true. So I corrected him. He said, "You mean Christianity is the last hope of America, right?" He said, "No, America is the last hope of Christianity." That's Christian nationalism.
This is the great contradiction, the great oxymoron of the whole movement, and the last core idea that leads to understanding it. America is Christianity's savior, not the other way around. This may bear the label Christian, but it's not some new great awakening. Christian nationalists aren't even necessarily religious zealots. They're fanboys, obsessed with a product. That product being the idea of America itself. And actually, the statistics bear this out. One of the most insightful data points of Whitehead and Perry's research is that
you know, this is so weird to me because, like, even in my early, like, memories of being educated about the concept of America, it was always taught to me to be a melting pot. It was the place that many cultures and many religions and many, like, many colors of skin came together. Like, it was, like, what happened to the melting pot? What happened to that pride? Like, wasn't that like the pride of America being the melting pot? Like, am I wrong? Like, wasn't that the whole point of America, to be the place where everybody comes to get some freedom? Like, how is it turned into something very specific? I don't know. I think I'm naive. I think I'm naive in that sense.
Commitment to Christian nationalism and commitment to genuine religious practice are often completely opposed. Americans who are more religious, who attend church more often, who pray more often, and who read their Bible more often are actually more likely to support gun control, less likely to ostracize immigrants, less likely to espouse anti-black or anti-Muslim sentiment, and yes, are less likely to vote for Trump. In fact, to quote from this article from The Atlantic, it seems clear that Christian nationalism attracts a lot of adherents who rarely go to church themselves. A PRRI survey published earlier this year showed that only 54% of Christian nationalists and just 42% of those.
Cassie says the melting pot assumes others will assimilate into American culture. But at the point of that phrase, I guess I need to just research more about that. Like, what did the melting pot actually mean? The melting pot assumes others will assimilate into the American culture. I guess. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess if you think about the idea of a melting pot in general, it does imply something like synthesizing. I'm going to have to look that up. An opportunity to learn. Interesting.
Those who are sympathizers with the ideology attend church regularly. Time and again, Whitehead and Perry write, where Christian nationalism zigs, religious practice zags. Now, clearly there are still a lot of religious zealots in the movement, but to me, this is kind of the punchline in all of this. If the research here is correct, Christian nationalism isn't very Christian. This isn't about spreading the good news, it's about gaining political power. And it's doing so by hijacking the Christian label. And you know what the most demonstrative image of all that is, that sums it all up? It's Donald Trump in 2016 standing in front of a crowd, holding up a Bible and acting as though it's the most precious thing in the world to him. And then opening it up and mispronouncing the name of the book he's reading from.
2 Corinthians, right? 2 Corinthians 3:17. That's the whole ballgame.
2 Corinthians.
Where the Spirit of the Lord, right? Where the Spirit of the Lord.
Now, you remember how I mentioned earlier that there's a war being waged amongst American evangelicals over all this? Well, there's been quite a lot of activity from a lot of folks in that arena, writing and speaking out against Christian nationalism. Big conservative evangelical names like Russell Moore, Timothy Keller, and writers at sites like the Gospel Coalition. And so to end all of this, I wanted to talk with someone to give us more of an on-the-ground approach. Hey Jay, hey man, how you doing?
Pretty good, how are y'all?
Good, we're just getting a few more things set up here. So I got connected with AJ Shortley, a preacher from Atlanta who also runs a new channel here on YouTube called The Holy Shift Show. And I think his perspective on all of this, and on how Christian nationalism perverts Christianity, is really valuable.
The language of the gospel itself, where it talks about the good news of the Son of God, actually is riffing on some of the language that the empire used to use for the emperor. So when a new emperor was born, it would make a proclamation to the Mediterranean world that the good news of the Son of God has been born, this emperor, Augustus or Caesar or whatever. And so when the gospel starts using that language, it's saying that, okay, the center of the empire, imperial power, is not your savior. And
okay, but to be fair, even though I grew up really religiously, if I was to crack open the Bible, I would say something like 2 Corinthians. Like, I would do that. Like, I don't want to throw Trump any charity there. But however, I have to admit, if I cracked open the Bible, I'd be like, all right, class, 2 Corinthians.
Salvation actually comes from the margins. For God to say that the Savior is born in Nazareth, which was on the margin of Israel, and Israel itself was on the margin of the Roman Empire, is to say that imperial power and the central power is not the place where salvation and wholeness and healing and freedom is going to come from. It's just not going to come from the centers.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need to get new headphones. I like the way these fit over my ears, but they're so squeezy. Like, they squeeze the ever-living shit out of my fucking pumpkin. Can't deal with it.
The power.
How has it been engaging with your congregation on these topics? Have they been open to having their opinions changed? Are they aware that some of these beliefs they hold may be in contradiction to the Bible? Have you met any resistance there?
In my experience, which of course is limited, social location can have a pretty significant factor on how open someone is to criticizing American structures. And so if you're studying scripture and analyzing, what America looks like from a biblical perspective, if people find themselves in a socially and economically marginalized place in life, they tend to be less resistant to critiquing America, for obvious reasons, I think. Those who find themselves in more central places socially and economically in American life are much more resistant to offering critiques of America because they would then be critiquing the status quo, which they're benefiting from. So there's some incentive there to not critique America or structures in that way. So it's a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag. Sometimes people get really defensive and don't want to hear anything about the critique of America in any way whatsoever. To critique America would be to critique the gospel itself. But even those who are central, even those who are more central socially and economically in the culture, they're still willing to grapple with it and think about how America could do better and all this stuff. But typically what I've seen is that even no matter how much critique someone is willing to give of American structures, if the narrative starts shifting towards people who are experiencing financial hardship are not experiencing it because they have made some sort of huge mistake or have made some sort of huge failure, but it's more of a structural reason that people experience financial hardship, that's sort of like an off limits way to look at things.
Is there a particular passage you would point to from the Bible to help a congregant understand that maybe some of these beliefs that they hold within Christian nationalism are opposed to the teachings of the Bible?
So specifically with Christian nationalism, Acts 15 is about as explicit as it gets. Acts 15 is a part of the story where the early church had been.
He said anti-nationalism at first, and I think that's what he truly meant. He said this passage is anti-nationalism.
Specifically with Christian nationalism, Acts 15 is about as explicit as it gets. Acts 15 is a part of the story where the early church had been spreading, and a lot of non-Jewish people had been coming to the faith in Jesus as the Messiah. And so the early church generated this question, okay, well, what do we do with all these non-Jewish people flowing into the faith? Are we saying that they're automatically a part of our community of God now? Or are we saying that they need to also adopt Jewish custom and law for themselves in order to consider themselves part of us, part of the community? And the very, very clear answer that Acts 15 gives is that no, Gentiles do not need to become Jewish in order to be reconciled with God. And that, I think, touches on the heart of Christian nationalism, because no one needs to be American to be reconciled with God. No one needs to be American or some version of American or some version of anything at all, anywhere, period, to be considered as loved and reconciled to God, because that's just not the message of Scripture. The message of Scripture is that God's love is absolutely universal and given to all people without any preconditions whatsoever.
Okay,
and it's an invitation
King.
to participate in relationship with God and God's love in bringing
Go King, I'm down with that.
Healing and goodness and life and mutuality and support and love to the world. It's not about being in the right, in group by any stretch of the imagination. There's a little story in Galatians 2 where Peter, who was a disciple of Jesus, and this is after Acts 15 in the Jerusalem Council, where Peter used to eat with Gentiles in Antioch, which was to the north. And he didn't have any problems with it, but sometimes some representatives from the church in Jerusalem, who were obviously, Jewish believers in Jesus as a Messiah, would come to Antioch to check on things and, fellowship probably and just stay connected in different ways. And one time when Paul and Peter are there, Peter got up from the table that he was sitting at with Gentiles and sharing a meal with them because some representatives from the church in Jerusalem arrived. And he gets up and leaves because he doesn't want those the Jewish believers to see him eating with Gentiles. And Paul absolutely loses his mind over this. And actually, he says that Peter's action in doing that calls into question the very truth of the gospel itself. And so in places like that and in places all over the place in Paul, you can see that the center of the gospel is kind of this overcoming superiority complexes, where we're not looking down on others, that we are all equally loved and invited by God to participate in the fullness of life, which is connection to God and connection to others. And that in my mind is very much against what Christian nationalism teaches and thinks.
That is a perfect answer, I think. And I think that's actually a great spot to end the episode. So AJ, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate having you here.
Thank you all.
We'll see ya.
See you.
I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that videos like these are made possible thanks to my patrons on Patreon. Now that Second Thought is a fully independent operation again.
Yay, okay, that was pretty good. Like I said, and I kind of had a theme tonight in covering people like Jodi, Hildebrandt, Ruby, Franke, and then covering Trump and the Bible and stuff. When we were covering Jodi, Hildebrandt, and Ruby, Franke, we were diving into the psychology of them excusing the treatment to the children by saying that they were possessed by the devil. There was a very religious thinking. Now with Christian nationalism, it's still religious thinking. It's justifying political moves with religious thinking. But the people at the top of the Christian nationalism, they know they're using it as a tool, right? here we are on Good Friday, you know, talking about Jesus Christ and all that shit. So I truly mean it when I say Christian nationalism is here right now. Like, we're living in it. Like, this is reality that we have. But there is hope, you know? There's hope by people like us coming together and mentally resisting these kind of ideas, being smart and rational enough to not fall for this sort of stuff. And there all are religious people out there that fight against these ideas too. Now, I saw something, and this is going to be the last thing I share tonight before we sign off, because it is time to go. I saw this on Twitter earlier today, and I liked what this guy said. Now, this guy is Christian, but I like what he has to say. And if we had more Christians like this in the world, I would be not necessarily a Christian myself, but I would be much more open to them. So this guy says, Christian nationalism is perverting my faith and subverting our democracy. It's incumbent upon Christians to call out this dangerous ideology. That's why I spoke at my home church about the threat of Christian nationalism. So let's
the state and in this country
listen to what he has to say.
The Bible doesn't mention abortion or gay marriage, but it goes on and on about forgiving debt, liberating the poor, and healing the sick. Christian nationalists like to say this is a Christian nation. Not only is that historically inaccurate, not only is that theologically blasphemous, but it's also just not true. Look around us. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would forgive student debt. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would guarantee health care to every single person. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would love all of our LGBTQ neighbors. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would make sure every child in this state and in this country was housed, fed, clothed, educated, and insured. If this was truly a Christian nation, we would never make it a Christian nation, because we know the table of fellowship is open to everybody, including our Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, and atheist neighbors. Jesus could have started a Christian theocracy, but love would never do that. The closest thing we have to the kingdom of heaven is a multiracial, multicultural democracy where power is truly shared among all people, something that's yet to exist in human history.
So I have nothing to add to that. Like, you know, I like what that guy has to say. I like what that guy has to say from a Christian point of view. And I'm down with more of that idea of Christianity than I am with the Christian nationalism. So, you know, that's how we have it. Wow, my video is totally off sync. Anyways. Look, chat. It is over 3 hours now. We have been streaming for 3 hours. It's time to go to bed. I will be live streaming tomorrow, I think. Unless if the Neogenian Oculus is streaming tomorrow, I'm not going to be streaming tomorrow. But if they're not, then I am. So we'll find out. If they're not, I will be. If I'm not streaming, they will be streaming. So either way, there's going to be a stream tomorrow, whether it's me or the Neogenian Oculus. So look out for that. Anyways, I have to fix this out of sync problem that's going on. I don't know if you're picking that up on your end, but I'm totally seeing it on my end. Please enjoy your Friday night, and we will see you tomorrow, my friends. Okay? Thank you so much. And yes, I know Christian nationalism is really scary, and it is here, and it's happening now, but there is people out there fighting against it. There's people there who want a better, brighter future. There is people like us, the Neogenian, who are here to bring the real real second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ consciousness. All right, good night. Thank you so much to our moderators, Elise, Cassie, Mark. Thank you so much for moderating the chat. I know Susan popped in. Thank you so much for coming, Becca, Mac. I know Specs was in here, Lee. Thank you so much for coming, Laura. Crystal, always good to see you, Crystal. And everybody else who gave super chats. And if you just like the live stream, if you're the replay crew, like the live stream, stuff like that, that really helps, sharing it and stuff. And gotta say, I know it sounds weird. If you're not on Twitter and you feel like maybe joining Twitter, get on Twitter and follow me on Twitter at Jan Daemon. You can see the little thing right here, Twitter. Find me at Jan Daemon. There's a lot of interesting conversation happening on there. It's a dog-eat-dog world, but it's, you know, it's got a lot of thought-provoking things going on there. So if you want to join Twitter, join me on there. Anyways, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all. Have a good night. We'll talk to you later. All right? Good night. Good night. Mwah.